Chapter 3494. Southern Continent, Central Region. There were two cities here. They were called Cloud Han City and Seven Star City. The two cities were about the same size and were only 1,000,000 miles apart. They occupied the entire central region of the southern continent. In the southern continent, these two cities were places that countless people yearned for. Because Cloud Han City and Seven Star City were the largest and most prosperous cities in the entire southern continent. The reason was because of the owners of these two cities. The owner of Cloud Han City was the Yun family. The owner of Seven Star City was the He family. Just these two families occupied almost half of the resources in the southern continent. Therefore, many people were born with these two cities as their goal. If they could step into these two cities, it would be a great honor. If they could stay in these two cities for a long time, they would be superior in front of others. Seven Star City. A tall and majestic city wall surrounded the city like a giant python. The entire city had a total of 4 city gates. East Gate, West Gate, North Gate, and South Gate. The city was divided into 5 districts: North, South, East, and West, as well as the inner city. The inner city was also the central city. The He family's territory was in the inner city. To put it simply, the entire inner city was the He family's private garden. Although there were hundreds of millions of people in Seven Star City, only the He family was qualified to step into the inner city. As for the others, without the He family's permission, no matter how strong they were or how high their status was, they had to stop outside the inner city gate. At this moment, outside the inner city gate, under a big tree by the side of the street, stood a white-haired old man in sackcloth. The old man was emaciated and looked weak. His eyes were dim and lifeless. There was a gray fat cat lying at his feet. It was yawning lazily and its fur was dirty and messy. "There's actually someone guarding here," the fat cat muttered. There were 4 guards in front of the city gate. They were wearing battle armor and holding spears. Their eyes were sharp. Moreover, their cultivation was very powerful. They were all perfection stage sovereigns. Not only that, in the sky above the inner city, one could faintly sense a fluctuation of the power of law. Obviously, the inner city was like the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. It was enveloped by an invisible barrier. In other words, it was impossible for them to sneak in. The fat cat stretched and looked at the linen-clothed old man. "What do we do?" The old man in sackcloth glanced at the city gate and said with a faint smile, "There's no need to go in. When I came here, I saw a restaurant. Let's go there first." After saying that, the sackcloth old man turned around and staggered away. Restaurant? The fat cat was stunned for a moment before it regained its spirit and chased after the old man. After turning a corner and entering the main street, the place immediately became lively. The shops on both sides of the street were dazzling, and there was an endless stream of people going in and out. The linen-clothed old man didn't look at anything else and went straight to a restaurant 100 meters away. The restaurant had a total of 10 floors. Antique. Above the door, there were 3 eye-catching words: Guanyu Tower. The old man in sackcloth brought the fat cat into the restaurant. A waiter immediately welcomed him with a smile. "Sir, are you here for a meal or a place to stay?" "Stay in the hotel. Help me arrange a quiet room." The sackcloth old man laughed hoarsely. "No problem, but it's not cheap at Guanyu Tower," the waiter said while sizing up the old man in sackcloth. His clothes were tattered and his aura was barely detectable. Obviously, he wasn't an expert. "Don't worry, I won't go back on my word. Plus, this old man doesn't dare to dine and dash." The old man in sackcloth chuckled. "That's different. What kind of people don't you have in this world? Especially some old men and women. Taking advantage of your age to flaunt your seniority. More importantly, people don't dare to hit or scold you, or they'll stick to you forever. The waiter laughed disdainfully and then looked at the old man in sackcloth. Sir, please don't blame me. I'm not against you, I'm just a little worried. The old man in sackcloth shook his head and smiled. He waved his hand and a pile of divine crystals appeared in front of the waiter. It was like a small mountain, almost occupying the entire aisle. He asked, "Is this enough for a day?" The waiter was slightly stunned and quickly nodded. "Yes, yes." The old man in sackcloth said, "Then these are your tips. The money for the wine will be calculated separately. Lead the way." "Okay. Thank you, sir." The waiter was overjoyed. He didn't expect to meet such a generous old man. After putting away the divine crystals, he immediately ran to the front and led the old man upstairs. After a while, the two of them went up to the 8th floor. The waiter led the old man into a corner room. The room wasn't big and the decorations were ordinary. However, it was tidy and clean. There was also an independent tea room. This was what Qin Feiyang was most satisfied with. The waiter arranged everything and asked, "Sir, what do you want to eat?" "Ask it." The old man in sackcloth pointed at the big fat cat beside him and said. He walked to the window alone and opened it. There was a hint of surprise on his face. Standing in front of the window, he could actually see the inner city gate clearly. Not bad. At the same time, the waiter looked at the big fat cat and was stunned. He didn't even notice that there was a pet. He then smiled and said, "That, kitty, what do you want to eat?" "Of course, good wine and good food. Remember, it must be the best wine." The big fat cat's eyes lit up and said with anticipation. "Okay." The waiter nodded and shouted before he turned and strode away. The old man in sackcloth turned to look at the big fat cat and said, "I'm going to take a look at the He family. Don't disturb me." "Ah." The big fat cat was stunned. "I don't need to go myself. Someone will go for me." The old man in sackcloth chuckled and walked into the tea room. He sat beside the tea table and slowly closed his eyes as if he was resting. "Someone will go for us?" The big fat cat looked at the old man in sackcloth in astonishment. What did he mean? Suddenly, it slapped its head and scolded, "What a pig brain! Don't we have the puppet art?" That's right. This man and cat were Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf. With their current cultivation, it wasn't difficult for them to find out the location of the He family. Therefore, after understanding the situation in 7-Star City, they rushed here. Inner City. Just like the imperial palace of the great Qin Empire, there were many halls and it was magnificent. No. To be exact, it was bigger and more magnificent than the imperial palace of the great Qin Empire. On a small winding path, a purple-clothed youth walked alone with his head lowered. His face was filled with distress. This person was He Tian. He originally wanted to plot against Yun Zifeng, but he didn't expect that someone would appear. Not only did he not get rid of this mortal enemy, but his life had also fallen into the hands of others. What was more terrifying was that this person was the infamous Qin Feiyang. What should he do? How could he break free from the control? He couldn't be controlled by the other party forever. As a disciple of the He family, he definitely wouldn't allow such a thing to happen. Let's find Father. Father should have a way. He Tian quickened his pace and walked towards a magnificent hall in the depths. Wait. Didn't Qin Feiyang ask me to pass a message to the old ancestor? He didn't seem to want to pass a message. Who cares? I'll just break free from the control first. About 100 breaths later, He Tian walked to the front of the hall. The door was half closed and there were 4 guards outside. Greetings, young master. When the 4 guards saw He Tian, they hurriedly bowed respectfully. Where's Father? He Tian asked. The family head is inside. One of the guards pointed at the hall. He Tian took a deep breath and strode into the main hall. He immediately saw a middle-aged man sitting in front of a tea table, ignoring the tea on the table. His brows were furrowed, as if he was thinking about something. Father. He Tian walked in front of the middle-aged man and bowed. The middle-aged man was stunned. He raised his head and looked at He Tian. A doting smile appeared on his face as he asked, "Why didn't you cultivate in the temple? Why did you come back?" This, He Tian hesitated for a while and suddenly knelt on the ground. He shouted, "Father, save me." The middle-aged man was shocked. He stood up and asked, "What's the situation?" "I'm being controlled." He Tian said. "What?" The middle-aged man's expression changed. He said angrily, "Who has the guts to control my son?" "It's," He Tian stammered. His face was filled with fear. "Speak, who is it?" He Qinggang said angrily. He is Qin Feiyang." He Tian gritted his teeth and gathered his courage to shout at He Qinggang. "Qin Feiyang." He Qinggang's expression froze. He suddenly felt a chill in his heart. He asked, "Aren't you at the temple? How did you meet him? And why is he controlling you? My He family has never had any disputes with him. Did you do something to offend him?" He Tian's face was pale and he was flustered. Even his father was afraid of this Qin Feiyang. Because, based on his father's character, if it was someone else who dared to control his son, he would definitely bring people to seek justice. But now, his father's first reaction was not to take revenge for him but to reprimand him. What did this mean? It meant that his father was also afraid of Qin Feiyang. "Tell me now. Or I'll kill you." He Qinggang roared. "It's like this." He Tian's body and mind trembled. He hurriedly explained the situation in detail. "Bastard." After hearing this, He Qinggang did not comfort He Tian. Instead, he became even angrier. He raised his hand and slapped He Tian hard on the face. He Tian was sent flying. The teeth in his mouth were broken and blood splattered on the ground. "Father, please spare my life." He Tian ignored the pain and crawled up, kneeling on the ground and begging. "Spare your life. Do you know how much trouble you've brought to my He family? Although those mysterious big shots have indeed agreed to help us deal with the Yun family, their injuries have not healed yet. Now you've gone to provoke Yun Zifeng. You've gotten carried away. The most hateful thing is that you actually told all these things to Qin Feiyang. Do you know what kind of disaster this will bring to our He family?" He Qinggang's face was filled with anger. If not for the fact that he was his biological son, he would have slapped him to death. Chapter 3495. I was wrong. I won't do it again. Father, please save me. He Tian cried. If this went on, he would break down. He had hoped that his father would comfort him so that he would feel better. However, he had never expected to be scolded and berated. Useless unfilial son. He Qinggang snorted and took out the sacred voice transmission stone. Soon, an elder with white hair appeared. He was wearing a black robe. Although he was in his 70s or 80s, his body was strong and he exuded the aura of a king. Old ancestor. He Qinggang bowed respectfully. What's wrong? The elder looked at He Qinggang calmly. He Qinggang said respectfully, Old ancestor, there's an urgent matter that requires your attention. It's best that you come immediately. It's related to Qin Feiyang. The old ancestor of the He family didn't pay much attention to it at first. However, when he heard the name Qin Feiyang, his eyes narrowed. Immediately after, he stood up and opened a space-time portal. He landed in front of He Qinggang. Looking at He Tian, who was kneeling at the side, the old ancestor of the He family raised his eyebrows. Then, he put away the sacred voice transmission stone and asked He Qinggang, "What's the urgent matter?" He Qinggang sighed and told him what had happened to He Tian. What? The old ancestor of the He family was shocked. He looked at He Tian and said angrily, "Are you crazy? How dare you tell Qin Feiyang about those lords? Old ancestor, I'm sorry. But I had no choice. If I didn't tell him, he would have killed me." He Tian said anxiously. The old ancestor of the He family was so angry that his body was trembling. He glared at He Qinggang and shouted, "This is the good son that you taught." The entire plan was ruined by him. "Old ancestor, please calm down. He's just a child after all. Furthermore, the person he's facing is Qin Feiyang. We all know of Qin Feiyang's abilities. Even we feel reverence toward him, much less a child like him. He's just unlucky." He Qinggang sighed. Even a vicious tiger wouldn't hurt its cubs. Therefore, he pleaded for He Tian in the face of the old ancestor's anger. "He's still a child. He Qinggang, how can you still have the face to say this? Look at Qin Feiyang, then look at Madman Mo. Which one of them isn't younger than your son? But look at their current achievements. Can your son compare to them? Your good-for-nothing son isn't even fit to carry their shoes." The He clan's old ancestor's eyes were filled with rage. "Yes, yes, yes." He Qinggang nodded. The old ancestor was clearly enraged and could not continue to go against him. Otherwise, even he, the current patriarch of the He clan, would not be able to withstand the old ancestor's anger. Needless to say, He Tian, who was beside him, was so scared that he cowered there, not daring to move an inch. Sigh. The He clan's old ancestor sighed and looked at He Qinggang. "This old man doesn't want my He clan's descendants to be compared to Qin Feiyang and Madman Mo, but at least they won't be too stupid." He Qinggang said, "I will do my best to teach them in the future." "Forget it. This old man knows better than you how capable our descendants are." The He clan's old ancestor waved his hand and turned to look at He Tian. After pondering for a while, he shook his head and said, "Even if this old man has the ability to remove Qin Feiyang's control over him, I can't do that now." "Why?" He Qinggang was puzzled. He Tian was also puzzled. The He clan's old ancestor said, "Because once you remove his control, it will be equivalent to admitting to Qin Feiyang that we have joined forces with those mysterious people." He Qinggang said, "But doesn't he already know that we have joined forces with those mysterious people?" "He knows, but we can still explain. Because he doesn't know whether we joined forces with them willingly or were forced to do so." The He clan's old ancestor sneered and continued, "Whether we joined forces with them willingly or not, only we know in our hearts. Qin Feiyang can only guess. How about this? Send someone to look for Qin Feiyang. When you find him, tell him that we were forced to join forces with those mysterious people because we had no other choice. Is there any point to that?" He Tian mumbled. "What do you know? This is called a stalling tactic. Appease Qin Feiyang first. If he knows that we willingly joined forces with those mysterious people, he will definitely attack the He clan. Do you have the ability to fight against Qin Feiyang's two sovereign divine weapons?" The He clan's old ancestor shouted angrily. He Tian shrank his neck and immediately fell silent. He didn't dare to utter another word. He Qinggang pondered for a while and then gave him a thumbs up. He smiled and said, "Old ancestor, you are wise. Stall Qin Feiyang first. When those people recover from their injuries, we will set up a death trap and lure Qin Feiyang here. At that time, we can eliminate the source of trouble and eliminate all future troubles." "That's right. If you can really find him, you can also tell him that we are willing to cooperate with him to eliminate those mysterious people. As long as we can gain his trust, it will be much easier to set up a trap to kill him in the future." The He clan's old ancestor smiled coldly, looking like a scheming old fox. Okay. He Qinggang nodded and then looked at He Tian and asked, what did you say Qin Feiyang asked you to tell us? However, at this time, He Tian lowered his head and didn't speak. His eyes were extremely strange. He asked you a question. He Qinggang shouted. He Tian slowly raised his head and looked at the two of them. There was no longer fear on his face. Instead, it was replaced by a look of mockery. He Qinggang and He Tian looked at each other and felt that something was wrong. He Tian laughed and said, Old ancestor, you are indeed the old ancestor. You are so good at scheming against others. He Tian, what did you say? He Qinggang hurriedly shouted. However, He Tian turned a deaf ear to him. He looked at the He clan's old ancestor and said with a smile, although those mysterious people are scary, I am not to be trifled with. The Blood Hall is a bloody example. It seems that the He clan wants to follow in the footsteps of the Blood Hall. The He clan's old ancestor's pupils shrank. He Qinggang was also bewildered. What the hell was going on? Why did this child suddenly seem like a different person? This is just the beginning. The show will start slowly. Be prepared. After He Tian finished speaking, a destructive aura rushed out from his body and he exploded in the main hall. He Qinggang and He Tian didn't expect this scene at all. The entire main hall was destroyed in an instant. Terrifying shockwaves rolled out in all directions. The guards outside were in a complete mess. Their eyes were filled with shock. What was going on? Fortunately, their cultivation was relatively strong. Otherwise, He Tian's self-explosion would be enough to kill them instantly. Even the people outside of the 4 great districts could hear the loud explosion and the destructive shockwaves of the explosion. At this time, Qin Feiyang, who was sitting beside the tea table, slowly opened his eyes. There was a trace of a smile in his eyes. White-eyed Wolf was drinking and eating when he heard the explosion. He looked out of the window and saw Qin Feiyang walking out of the tea room. He asked, You did this? What else could it be? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and walked to the opposite side of White-eyed Wolf. He picked up a wine pot and took a sip. This puppet technique is really convenient. White-eyed Wolf bared his teeth and asked, What is the attitude of the He clan? Isn't it obvious? Qin Feiyang looked at him helplessly, walked to the window, and looked at the chaotic inner city. Actually, even if the He clan's position was not to help either side, he wouldn't do this. But unfortunately, the He clan had chosen the dragons and was even prepared to set up a trap to kill him. Of course, he wouldn't be polite. On the other side, Cloud Han City. Similarly, in a large hall, Yun Zifeng, Old Black, and the other 4 stood in the middle of the hall with their heads lowered. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Above them, a middle-aged man in white sat upright. His body was slender and thin, and his temperament was refined. However, there was a trace of anger on his face. Cough cough. Yun Zifeng coughed dryly, and couldn't hold it in any longer. He raised his head and looked at the middle-aged man in white, and said, Father, if you want to scold me, then scold me. I'm already mentally prepared. Hearing this, the middle-aged man in white's face immediately darkened. Yun Zifeng said again, Why don't you beat me up and vent your anger? Brat, I really want to beat you up. The middle-aged man in white angrily scolded, and said, Look at you, you're my son, Yun Guanghui's son, and you're actually being played around by a woman. Tell me, aren't you a coward? Father, don't hit people in the face, don't expose people's shortcomings. You're too hurtful. Yun Zifeng said angrily. If you're afraid of being talked about, then don't give others something to use against you. You still have the nerve to hang them in the central square. Do you think you're humiliating them by doing this? This is humiliating yourself. Yun Guanghui glared at Yun Zifeng, then looked at Old Black and the others and said, "You guys, immediately go to the square and kill them, and find a place to bury them." "Yes." The few of them replied respectfully, then turned around and left quickly. "I haven't vented my anger yet." Yun Zifeng looked at Yun Guanghui unhappily. "Scram. Immediately, scram as far as you can." Yun Guanghui pointed outside and shouted. Yun Zifeng pursed his lips and turned to walk outside, muttering, "Fine, I'll scram. But don't say that I didn't tell you about Qin Feiyang in advance." "Qin Feiyang?" Yun Guanghui was slightly stunned, then quickly shouted, "Stop, what did you just say?" Yun Zifeng stopped and looked at Yun Guanghui. "Didn't you tell me to scram? Brat, are you really itching for a beating?" Yun Guanghui stepped in front of Yun Zifeng and said fiercely. Yun Zifeng chuckled and sighed, "Father, you don't know, but this time, I was able to escape from death because of this Qin Feiyang." "Speak clearly." Yun Guanghui looked at him with a somewhat heavy expression. "You don't have to be so nervous. This Qin Feiyang is actually quite a good person." Yun Zifeng also recounted the situation back then in detail. "What? The He family wants to attack the Yun family?" Yun Guanghui was shocked. "Although I'm not a good person, I've never lied to you. It's said that the He family has the help of a group of mysterious people. I heard Qin Feiyang mention at the beginning that they seem to be some kind of dragons. I'm guessing that they should be the mysterious force that has been chasing after Qin Feiyang in the eastern and western continents recently." Yun Zifeng said. Chapter 3496. "I've heard about this as well." Yun Guanghui nodded. "Then, who do you think has a higher chance of winning?" Yun Zifeng asked. "We all know about Qin Feiyang's methods. 2 sovereign divine weapons, slaughter domain, and his own terrifying talent. It can be said that he has the qualifications to dominate the sky cloud realm." Yun Guanghui pondered as he spoke. "His talent is indeed terrifying. He has already comprehended the karma law's supreme profundity." Yun Zifeng nodded. "What? He comprehended the karma law's supreme profundity?" Yun Guanghui looked at Yun Zifeng in surprise. "Yes. I saw it with my own eyes. It's terrifying." Yun Zifeng's face was full of envy. "Incredible. The karma law's supreme profundity. Even if he doesn't open the slaughter domain or use the sovereign divine weapon, he can still crush most perfect sovereigns." Yun Guanghui was amazed. How could there be such a terrifying monster in this world? Crush perfect sovereigns? Isn't that too exaggerated? After all, there's a difference of a small realm. Yun Zifeng said. "What do you know? The supreme profundity of a supreme law can kill enemies of a higher realm." Yun Guanghui rolled his eyes and continued, "We all know about Qin Feiyang's methods. As for that mysterious force, although we don't know much about them, according to our spies in the eastern continent, they seem to have many sovereign divine weapons." "Many?" Yun Zifeng was stunned and asked suspiciously, "How many is a lot?" "How would I know? I didn't see it with my own eyes. However, from the fact that Qin Feiyang and the others didn't dare to confront this force directly, we can see that they are also afraid of this force. Therefore, if we're talking about winning or losing, this mysterious force should have a higher chance of winning. However, we can't look at Qin Feiyang with ordinary eyes. Therefore, it's really hard to predict who will win or lose." Yun Guanghui shook his head. "If that's the case, then we can't choose a side." Yun Zifeng frowned. "Choose a side?" Yun Guanghui was stunned and looked at Yun Zifeng in confusion. "Yeah. The He clan has already colluded with those mysterious people to attack our Yun clan. That's just a matter of time. We can't just sit here and wait for death, right? Either we cooperate with those mysterious people, or we cooperate with Qin Feiyang. There is no third path." Yun Zifeng said. Yun Guanghui looked at Yun Zifeng in astonishment. Yun Zifeng had actually thought of this. Not bad. It seemed that he had underestimated this son of his. After pondering for a while, Yun Guanghui shook his head and said, neither of these paths is easy to take. That's for sure. Yun Zifeng nodded. The He family had already cooperated with those mysterious people, so if the Yun family went to look for the mysterious people now, the He family would definitely take the lead. In other words, at that time, their Yun family would most likely become a subsidiary of the He family. If that was really the case, then the Yun family would never have the chance to rise again. Once they became a subsidiary of the He clan, the Yun clan would lose control of the other half of the Dominator weapon. The most important thing was that if they cooperated with that mysterious force, they would definitely suffer Qin Feiyang's revenge. The Yun family did not have the ability to face Qin Feiyang's anger. As for cooperating with Qin Feiyang, it was tantamount to declaring war on that mysterious force. If Qin Feiyang won in the end, that would be good. But if Qin Feiyang lost, then the Yun family would be buried with him. Both choices were very risky. I'll report this matter to the ancestor first and see what he thinks, Yun Guanghui rubbed his forehead and said. Yun Guanghui rubbed his forehead. Then, he patted Yun Zifeng's shoulder and said with a smile, no matter what, this time, you have done a great service by accident. When the time comes, I will report this to the ancestor and give you a reward. It's no big deal. Yun Zifeng waved his hand and smiled proudly. Yun Guanghui rolled his eyes at him. Just as he was about to leave, old He rushed back alone. What's wrong? The father and son looked at him suspiciously. Old He took a deep breath, looked at the father and son, and said excitedly, Patriarch, young master, just a while ago, something big happened in 7-Star City. What big thing made you so excited? Yun Zifeng smiled. Old He said, according to the spies we arranged in the He family, He Tian self-destructed in front of He Qinggang and the ancestor of the He family. What? Self-destructed? Yun Zifeng was stunned, then laughed and said, this is indeed a joyous occasion. Shut up. Yun Guanghui glared at him and asked Old He, is the news true? It's true. Old He nodded. What's going on? Why would He Tian self-destruct in front of He Qinggang? This doesn't make sense. Even if He Tian made a mistake, with He Qinggang's love for him, he wouldn't have forced him to self-destruct. Yun Guanghui frowned. There must be another reason. When Yun Zifeng and Old He heard this, they were slightly stunned. That's right, why would he self-destruct? Could it be, suddenly? The two of them looked at each other, and a trace of shock appeared in their eyes. What did you think? Yun Guanghui looked at the two of them suspiciously. When He Tian left, Qin Feiyang used a kind of control secret technique to control him. So we were thinking, could He Tian's strange self-destruction have something to do with Qin Feiyang? Yun Zifeng said. Hearing this, Yun Guanghui's pupils shrank. He could actually control him to self-destruct. This was too terrifying. Old He said in a deep voice, I feel that it should be his masterpiece. This is a show of strength to the He family, warning them not to meddle in other people's business. Yun Zifeng shook his head and said, if it's just a warning, he shouldn't kill He Tian. After all, he is He Qinggang's son. Fengler has a point. The hatred of killing one's son is irreconcilable. I think Qin Feiyang wouldn't be so stupid as to directly use this method to warn them. If I'm not wrong, Qin Feiyang killing He Tian is a direct declaration of war against the He family. And it can be seen that the He family has indeed formed an alliance with that mysterious force. Otherwise, Qin Feiyang wouldn't be so ruthless. Yun Guanghui analyzed logically, and an inexplicable light flashed in his eyes. It turns out that he was already planning when he was in the Yin Demon Land. How terrifying. Old He sighed. Yes. We really can't afford to offend such a person. Alright, I'll go and discuss with the ancestor first. You guys also pass down the order, tell everyone in the family to be more down to earth during this period of time. If anyone dares to provoke Qin Feiyang outside, then don't blame me for being merciful. After saying this, Yun Guanghui turned and left quickly. Father is also anxious this time. Yun Zifeng said with a smile. Qin Feiyang and that mysterious force have come to the southern continent, preparing to make this the next battlefield. How can the patriarch not be anxious in the face of such a thing? Old He sighed. In the past, when they heard all kinds of rumors about Qin Feiyang, they didn't take it to heart, because no matter how much trouble Qin Feiyang caused, it had little to do with them. But they never expected that he would come to the southern continent. The most terrifying thing was that the He family also interfered at this time. Not only did they want to deal with Qin Feiyang, but they also wanted to attack the Yun family. This made the Yun family have no choice but to start planning for the future. Yun Zifeng waved his hand and said, "Go and pass down the order." As father said, the people of the Yun family must not provoke Qin Feiyang outside. Okay. Old He nodded and left quickly. Yun Zifeng walked out of the hall, looked at the clear sky, and muttered, "I wonder where Big Brother is now. If Big Brother is here, maybe he can think of a better way." Duh. Suddenly, a series of hurried footsteps sounded. Yun Zifeng withdrew his gaze and looked up. He saw the other 4 burly men running over and asking, "Did you bury him?" "Yes." The 4 men nodded. "If it wasn't for father's order, I would have let them hang there for hundreds of years. They really got off easy." Yun Zifeng snorted coldly. "I didn't expect you to be so vengeful." Suddenly, a hoarse chuckle echoed from the void nearby. Hearing this voice, whether it was Yun Zifeng, the 4 burly men, or the guards around the hall, all changed color. Someone had infiltrated the Yun family. "Who is it?" One of the guards shouted. Whoosh! A white-haired old man in linen walked out of the void with a big fat cat. The big fat cat was extremely funny. One of its paws was holding a big lamb leg that was twice its size, and the other was holding a jar of wine. It was chewing and drinking at the same time, its mouth full of oil. "Who are you? How dare you trespass on the Yun family's land?" The 4 burly men and a group of guards immediately stepped forward and surrounded the man and the cat, their eyes filled with hostility. The big fat cat was eating and drinking the whole time, completely ignoring them. The linen old man glanced at the 4 burly men and the group of guards, then looked at Yun Zifeng and laughed. "When we left, didn't you say that this old man should come to your Yun family as a guest when he was free?" "Did I say that?" Yun Zifeng was stunned. He looked at the 4 burly men and asked, "Did you?" The 4 burly men looked at each other and shook their heads. "No." But suddenly, the 4 of them seemed to have thought of something and looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. Not long ago, young master did say that, but at that time, he said it to Qin Feiyang. What did it have to do with this old man? Wait. Could it be that this old man was... One of the burly men quickly ran in front of Yun Zifeng and whispered a few words in his ear. Yun Zifeng's face suddenly stiffened. The group of guards looked at each other. What was going on? "If you don't welcome me, then this old man will take his leave." The linen old man smiled. Yun Zifeng shuddered and quickly stepped forward to take the old man's hand. He said with a flattering smile, "No, welcome, a warm welcome. It is the Yun family's honor to have you here. Come in and have a seat." After that, he dragged the linen old man into the hall. The 4 burly men smiled bitterly. Young master's flattery skills were getting better and better. Chapter 3497. What's going on? The group of guards looked at the 4 burly men, their faces full of doubts. Why did the young master's attitude seem like he was meeting his ancestor? No, he was even more respectful than meeting his ancestor. Don't ask. Because even if you ask, we don't dare to say. In short, this is a big shot that you can't afford to offend. No, it's a big shot that our Yun family can't afford to offend. The four burly men said meaningfully, then closed the door of the hall and guarded in front of the door. Hearing this, the group of guards looked at each other. A big shot that even their Yun family couldn't afford to offend. How big was this person? In the hall. Beside the tea table. Big brother Qin Dage, Wolf King, please sit. Yun Zifeng greeted Qin Feiyang in the white-eyed wolf, looking extremely reserved. Qin Feiyang sat down and scanned the hall. The decorations of the entire hall were not luxurious at all. There were rows of bookshelves in the corners, and ancient books were neatly arranged on them. On the side, there was an exquisite incense burner, with light smoke curling up. Overall, there was a scholarly atmosphere. Qin Dage, have some tea. Yun Zifeng poured tea and handed it to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang retracted his gaze and looked at Yun Zifeng, frowning slightly. Was he really so terrifying? Seeing this fierce person staring at him, Yun Zifeng was even more nervous. His hands holding the teacup couldn't help but tremble. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. He took the teacup and took a sip. A jasmine flower fragrance immediately seeped into his heart. Flower tea. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Seeing this, Yun Zifeng hurriedly said, Qin Dage doesn't like it. I'll change it right away. No need, no need. This flower tea is not ordinary flower tea. It's full of spirit energy. I think it should be brewed from jasmine flowers that are at least 10,000 years old. The taste is not bad. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Of course, compared to the heavenly immortal dew and jade dew dragon well, it was still quite a bit lacking. Hearing this, Yun Zifeng let out a sigh of relief and stood to the side, trembling with fear. Why are you standing there? You're the host, and I'm the guest. How can the host stand and accompany the guest? Sit down. Qin Feiyang looked at Yun Zifeng speechlessly. Yun Zifeng was somewhat hesitant. You really don't have to be so afraid of me. If I'm really a heinous person, do you think you can live until now? Qin Feiyang rubbed his forehead helplessly. Have you ever seen such a kind-looking villain? Yun Zifeng smiled embarrassedly, but the nervousness in his heart was hard to dispel. It was also quite depressing. How could this person be so resourceful? Not only did he make He Tian self-destruct in front of He Qinggang and the He clan's old ancestor, he even snuck into the Yun clan without anyone noticing. Why did it feel like there was nothing he couldn't do? Alright, I'll stand then. Qin Feiyang said weakly and continued to drink his tea. Yun Zifeng smiled apologetically and asked, Qin Dage, how did you sneak into our Yun clan? Sneak? Qin Feiyang was stunned. White-eyed wolf at the side tore off a large piece of lamb leg and said while chewing, let me correct you. We didn't sneak in. We swaggered in through the gate. Ah. Yun Zifeng was stunned. Was this possible? It was definitely impossible. The distribution of Yunhan City and Seven Stars City was the same. The four major districts, the inner city. The inner city was also enveloped by a barrier, and there was only one entrance and exit in the entire inner city, which was guarded by experts. If he had really swaggered in, they would have received the news a long time ago. We followed behind your four guards into the inner city. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. I see. Yun Zifeng suddenly understood. Although there was a barrier in the inner city, when entering and exiting the inner city, the barrier in front of the city gate would be activated. This was a gap. Yun Zifeng asked, then why did you come to our Yun clan? Qin Feiyang put down his teacup and looked at Yun Zifeng. If I said that I came here to sightsee, would you believe me? Yun Zifeng's expression froze. Who would go to other people's land for sightseeing? Brat, why are you so stupid? Even if we have something to do, is it useful to talk to you? Can you make the decision? White-eyed Wolf looked at Yun Zifeng speechlessly. He had never seen such a slow little guy. Yun Zifeng smiled embarrassedly and nodded, I understand, I understand. I will immediately inform father and the others. You two wait a moment. With that, he turned and walked outside. When Yun Zifeng opened the door and walked out of the main hall, the four men immediately looked at him and asked in a low voice, what are they here for? I don't know either. However, they should have something to discuss with father and the others. Yun Zifeng turned and closed the door, looking at the four men and shaking his head. What could it be? The four men were curious. How would I know? Don't talk nonsense. Hurry up and get someone to prepare wine and dishes. We have to entertain them well later. Yun Zifeng waved his hand. Okay. The four men nodded and turned to jog away. Young master, do you need our help? The group of guards looked at Yun Zifeng. You guys? Yun Zifeng glanced at the group of people and waved his hand, you guys also hurry up and get lost. Huh? The group of people was stunned and puzzled, get lost to where? Get lost as far as possible. Yun Zifeng said angrily. All right. The group of people laughed bitterly and left one after another. At that moment, only Yun Zifeng was left here. Looking around and seeing that there was no one around, Yun Zifeng took out the sound transmission god stone. Qin Feiyang's appearance was no small matter to the Yun clan. Therefore, other than the people he trusted, he absolutely could not let a third person know. Because in the Yun clan, there were also spies of the He clan, and they might even be hidden among these guards. In less than 10 breaths, two figures descended in front of the main hall. One of them was Yun Guanghui. The other person was a white-haired old man. He wore a snow-white robe and held a dragon-headed walking stick in his hand. He had a somewhat sage-like aura. Father, old ancestor. Yun Zifeng hurriedly went up to greet them. Where is he? The white-haired old man glanced around and asked. He's in the main hall. Yun Zifeng pointed to the main hall and whispered. Amazing. This is the first time that someone can sneak into my Yun clan's land without anyone noticing. The white-haired old man's eyes flashed with a trace of light. He didn't sneak in, he swaggered in. Yun Zifeng smiled bitterly. Hearing this, the white-haired old man and Yun Guanghui looked at each other, their hearts bitter. This young man really couldn't be looked at with ordinary eyes. At this time, Old Black ran over and respectfully bowed with the white-haired old man, saying, Greetings, old ancestor. N. The white-haired old man nodded. Yun Zifeng looked at Old Black and asked, Have you ordered everything? N. I've already ordered it. The disciples who were seeking pleasure outside are also rushing back one after another. Old Black said. These disciples who only know how to seek pleasure outside all day, even if they die, it's not worth pitying. The old ancestor of the Yun clan coldly snorted. That's true, but after all, it's the legacy of our Yun clan. Let's talk about it later. This kind of situation can't be avoided by any clan. Yun Guanghui smiled. The old ancestor of the Yun clan glared at him, then looked at Old Black and said, You guard outside, don't let anyone come near. Yes. Old Black nodded respectfully, looked at Yun Zifeng, and asked in a low voice, Young master, what's the situation? Yun Zifeng pointed to the main hall and whispered, Qin Feiyang is inside. What? Old Black's expression suddenly changed. Inside the hall, Qin Feiyang sat at the tea table, quietly drinking tea. White-eyed Wolf had finished eating the lamb leg in his hand, but there was still a lot of wine. The strong smell of wine covered the smell of the flower tea. Creak. The door suddenly opened. The Yun clan's old ancestor, Yun Guanghui, and Yun Zifeng walked in. Seeing an old man sitting inside, Yun Guanghui and Yun Zifeng were stunned. After Yun Zifeng turned around and closed the door, he ran to the front and introduced, "Old ancestor, father, this is Qin Dage, and this is Golden Wing Wolf King." The two came back to their senses and quickly went forward with a smile. What a rare guest. Qin Feiyang also stood up with a smile, took a face-restoring pill, and immediately recovered his true appearance. He then cupped his hands and said, "This junior has taken the liberty to visit, I hope the two seniors will forgive me." Seniors? The Yun clan's old ancestor and Yun Zifeng were stunned. He was quite polite. It's fine, it's fine. Sit down, sit down." The Yun clan's old ancestor walked to the tea table and chuckled. The three of them sat down, and only Yun Zifeng stood to the side cautiously. Yun Guanghui picked up the teapot, poured the tea, and said with a smile, "Brother Qin has saved my son twice. Whether it's for me or for the entire Yun clan, this is a great kindness. So, I should be the one apologizing to you. Patriarch Yun is too polite. It's just a small matter." Qin Feiyang smiled. "It's just a small matter for you, but for Feng, this is a life-saving grace. I wanted to scold him before, why didn't he invite his savior to our Yun clan for a visit? It would have been better to show some hospitality and repay him. Sigh. It's all my fault. I didn't teach this child well. He doesn't even know how to conduct himself. Brother Qin, please don't take it to heart." Yun Guanghui picked up the teacup, stood up, and said with a smile, "I'll use this tea as wine to apologize on behalf of my son, and welcome Brother Qin to the Yun clan as a guest." Qin Feiyang smiled and also picked up the teacup, clinking it with Yun Guanghui. After drinking the tea, the two returned to their seats. Qin Feiyang put down the teacup, looked at the Yun clan's old ancestor and Yun Guanghui, and said with a smile, "This junior doesn't like to beat around the bush. There are some things this junior will say directly. There's no harm in saying it." The two nodded. "I believe Yun Zifeng has already explained the He clan situation to you. Previously, I was in 7-Star City and met with the He clan's patriarch and old ancestor. They have indeed submitted to the dragons, and after the dragons reconstruct their bodies, they will immediately make a move on your Yun clan. I think you should know the consequences of this." Qin Feiyang said. The Yun clan's old ancestor said, "So, He Tian's self-destruction was because of you?" "That's right. I have never been merciful to my enemies." Qin Feiyang nodded. Chapter 3498. When the old ancestor of the Yun family and Yun Guanghui heard this, their hearts couldn't help but tremble. Was this a warning to them? Warning them not to be enemies with him? However, making He Tian self-destruct in front of He Qinggang and Yun Guanghui, this method was indeed terrifying. And it was very cruel. Think about it, what could be more painful than watching one's own son self-destruct in front of one's own eyes? The old ancestor of the Yun family pondered for a while and asked, "What exactly are dragons?" Dragons come from the Yin Demon Land. In the core area of the Yin Demon Land, there is a place called the Dragon's Nest. The dragons live in this dragon's nest. Qin Feiyang said. What? The old ancestor of the Yun family's expression changed. Yun Guanghui and Yun Zifeng looked at each other, their faces full of disbelief. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "It's normal for you to have such a reaction, because when I entered the Yin Demon Land and found out about the existence of the dragons, I was also very surprised. This old man really didn't expect that there would be such a mysterious force hidden in the core area of the Yin Demon Land." The old ancestor of the Yun family shook his head and sighed, and asked, "Then, have you been to the core area?" "No. When we were chased by the dragons, we strolled around the inner area." Qin Feiyang smiled. Even so, the old ancestor of the Yun family couldn't help but gasp. The Yin demon land was located between the southern and eastern continents, so he was also very familiar with the situation there. Even with his strength, he didn't dare to step into the inner area because he couldn't withstand the corrosion of the Yin demon power. But this young man in front of him had actually been to the inner area. Just this ability alone was enough to leave others in the dust. Are the dragons strong? Yun Guanghui asked. I don't know the overall strength of the dragons. Because as of now, I have only seen the princes and princesses of the dragons' clans, as well as their followers. But the strength of these followers isn't just a little terrifying. Each of them has mastered 2 supreme profundities, and some of them have even mastered the supreme profundities of the ultimate law. It can be said that once they reconstruct their bodies, they alone will be enough to destroy the Yun family. Qin Feiyang said. Yun Guanghui's expression froze. How could he be so powerful? Indeed, this is nothing. The most terrifying ones are the princes and princesses of the dragons. Almost every one of them has a dominator weapon. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. What? Everyone will have a sovereign weapon. The eyes of the Yun family ancestor and Yun Guanghui trembled. This was too terrifying. Needless to say, Yun Zifeng was so scared that his face turned pale. He asked in a trembling voice, then how many princes and princesses do they have? According to what I've seen so far, there are 10 of them. Qin Feiyang said. 10, Yun Zifeng's expression froze. Wasn't this equivalent to 10 sovereign-level divine weapons? 10 sovereign-level divine weapons. How were they supposed to fight? One had to know. In the entire southern continent, there was only one sovereign-level divine weapon. Even in the entire sky cloud realm, there were only 4 sovereign-level divine weapons. Even the dragons didn't have one. In other words, even if it was only the princes and princesses, it was enough to destroy the entire sky cloud realm. Involuntarily, Yun Zifeng sized up Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf. Even in the face of such terrifying dragons, these people could still remain calm and steady. This kind of temperament and means was really unmatched. Sure enough. Compared to these people, he, the son of the Yun family patriarch, was far inferior in both courage and courage. You can imagine that even the followers of these princes and princesses are so strong, let alone the higher-ups of the dragons. I even heard that the dragons have a supreme existence. His name is Dragon King, and he controls the entire dragons. I think this person's strength is even more shocking. So I want to know, does your Yun family have the confidence to deal with the dragons? If you say yes, I will leave immediately and never disturb you again. But if you don't, then please think about how you can escape this calamity. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he picked up his teacup and quietly looked at the 2 old ancestors of the Yun family. The old ancestor of the Yun family and Yun Guanghui were silent. What a joke! In the face of such a terrifying dragons, how could the Yun family have the ability to deal with them? The temple's only sovereign-level divine weapon, their Yun family only had half of the control. But if they really cooperated with Qin Feiyang, they would still have to face the dragons, and their future would also be bleak. Suddenly, the white-eyed wolf looked at the 2 and said, actually, you have a third choice. What choice? Yun Guanghui and Yun Guanghui looked at the white-eyed wolf suspiciously. The white-eyed wolf said playfully, give up everything you have now, take your clansmen and hide in the deep mountains and forests. I think this way, the He family shouldn't be so ruthless as to kill you all. Their faces darkened. Giving up everything they had now, how could they do that? One had to know that everything the Yun family had now was exchanged with the lives and blood of countless ancestors. No matter how cowardly a person was, they wouldn't do such a thing as abandoning their family business and living an ignoble life. Besides, even if they were willing to let it go, with the many years of grudges between the Yun family and the He family would definitely not let them off. In other words, It was inevitable to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. Not willing? Then you only have two choices. One is to cooperate with us, and the other is to cooperate with the dragons. You have to make a choice. Don't misunderstand, it's not us who are forcing you, it's the He family who is forcing you. The He family has the backing of the dragons and will definitely start to expand. At that time, the first target will be your Yun family. The white-eyed wolf looked at the two of them mockingly. For the Yun family, this was a catastrophe that could wipe them out. In fact, the Yun family was also wronged. Because in the past, the Yun family had never investigated the battle between Qin Feiyang and the dragons. They had never even helped Qin Feiyang in the slightest. This was completely a disaster, and an innocent party was implicated. Yun Guanghui and Yun Guanghui were silent. Yun Zifeng naturally didn't dare to express his opinion. He also didn't have the courage to make a decision. For a moment, the entire hall fell into a dead silence. After a long, long time, the Yun family's ancestor took a deep breath, looked at Qin Feiyang, and said in a deep voice, "If we cooperate with you, are you confident that you can help my Yun family get through this disaster?" Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. This was a good start. Because the Yun family's ancestor asked this because he was more inclined to cooperate with him. In fact, the Yun family's ancestor wasn't stupid. If they cooperated with the dragons now, it would be tantamount to suicide. Because the dragons cooperated with the He family first, the He family would definitely obstruct them. For example, they would force the Yun family to hand over the other half of the control of the ruler divine weapon, or force the Yun family to become a subsidiary of the He family in the future. Although they could protect the Yun family temporarily, with the He family's ambition, the Yun family would be swallowed up sooner or later. At that time, the Yun family wouldn't have the power to fight back. Because they had already given up the control of the ruler divine weapon, what could they do when the He family attacked with the ruler divine weapon? They could only obediently accept their deaths. Qin Feiyang put down his teacup and said with a smile, "To be honest, so far, I am not confident that I can defeat the dragons. I believe you are well aware of this. This old man knows. With your current strength, you still can't fight the dragons head-on. This is not a problem this old man cares about. This old man only cares about whether you can protect the Yun family, or even help our Yun family obtain the control of the ruler divine weapon and unify the southern continent." The Yun family's ancestor said in a deep voice. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up like two bright moons, and said, "Give me some time, I can guarantee you that the future ruler of the southern continent will be your Yun family." The Yun family's ancestor stared at Qin Feiyang, his eyes flashing with an inexplicable light. The old man and the young man looked at each other like this. "Haha," suddenly. The Yun family's ancestor laughed out loud and said, "As expected, the younger generation will surpass us in time. When I first saw you at the exchange, this old man already felt that you were not an ordinary young man. As expected, your achievements today are something that countless young people can't surpass. You were also at the exchange back then?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "Didn't you see this old man? This old man has always been sitting in the front row. And that time, this old man was also the one leading the team." The Yun family's ancestor said in shock. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang's face was a little embarrassed, and he smiled embarrassedly. "Sorry, my attention was on the Blood Hall at that time, and I didn't pay much attention to the people from the Divine Hall and Sky Hall." "All right. To think that this old man, the Deputy Hall Master of the Divine Hall, was ignored by a junior." The Yun family's ancestor shook his head and smiled bitterly. This was really a blow to him. Sorry. Qin Feiyang smiled embarrassedly. At that time, he was worried about the safety of the Sword Emperor and the others, so he didn't pay much attention to the people from the Divine Hall and Sky Hall. These are all small matters. The Yun family's ancestor waved his hand and smiled. "This old man doesn't like to drag things out. Little brother, you came to my Yun family personally, which means that you are indeed sincere and think highly of my Yun family. It is impolite not to reciprocate. This old man will give you an answer now. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang looked at the Yun family's ancestor expectantly. Yun Guanghui and Yun Zifeng also looked at the Yun family's ancestor nervously. Because the ancestor's decision now was related to the fate of the Yun family in the future. What would he choose? The Yun family's ancestor looked at the father and son, holding the teacup, pondered for a moment, raised his head and drank the tea in the cup. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "As long as you can fulfill today's promise one day in the future, my Yun family is willing to be with you, in life and death, in trials and tribulations." Hearing this, Qin Feiyang's hand that was holding the teacup trembled slightly, unable to hide the joy in his heart. Yun Guanghui and his son looked at each other and sighed inwardly. This was really a huge gamble, gambling with the fate of the Yun family. However, when the Yun family's ancestor made this decision, they seemed to have a sense of relief. Although the dragons were very strong, and although Qin Feiyang was not a match for the dragons now, in their hearts, there was a very strange feeling. It seemed that, in this battle between the dragons and Qin Feiyang, the final winner would definitely be Qin Feiyang. Moreover, this was the ancestors' decision. They believed in the ancestors' vision. Since the ancestor had chosen to cooperate with Qin Feiyang, then he must have a certain amount of confidence in Qin Feiyang. Besides, it was useless for them to object. And this, under the current situation, was also the best choice. Because cooperating with Qin Feiyang, there was at least a little hope. In short, since he had already sat down and made a decision, there was no need to think too much. He just had to do his best. Chapter 3499. At the same time. The He family. At the back of the mountain. There were more than a dozen courtyards, surrounded by mountains and rivers. At the same time. The ancestor of the He family, He Qinggang, was standing in front of one of the courtyards, his face full of grief and anger. After a while, an old woman in green clothes appeared. "How is it?" the two of them hurriedly asked. The old woman in green clothes said, "His Highness said that no matter what happens now, we have to wait until we reconstruct our bodies. But Qin Feiyang has already come to the southern continent. And he already knows that we're cooperating with you. With Qin Feiyang's personality, how can he let us go? My son, He Tian, has already met with misfortune. I don't want more people to be implicated." He Qinggang was extremely anxious. What's the hurry? Will Qin Feiyang still dare to come to the He family openly? Don't forget that we have a few sovereign divine weapons here. He's not that stupid. You should restrain your people. Tell them not to go out and cause trouble during this period. After saying that, the old woman in green clothes turned around and entered the courtyard without looking back, leaving He Qinggang and He Qinggang in a daze. Is this the attitude of cooperation? When he came back to his senses, He Qinggang immediately shouted. "Shut up!" The ancestor of the He family's face changed and he hurriedly shouted. If they were already enemies with Qin Feiyang, and if they angered these people, then the He clan would be in a situation where they couldn't even call for help. He Qinggang gloomily looked at the courtyards and transmitted his voice, "Old ancestor, why don't we surrender to Qin Feiyang?" The ancestor of the He family's face froze and he looked at He Qinggang in shock and anger. Why do you have such a thought? Don't you want to avenge your son by surrendering to Qin Feiyang? He's just a good-for-nothing unfilial son. There's no need to sacrifice the entire He family for him. I know Qin Feiyang. Although he's ruthless to his enemies, he's very kind to his friends and family. I believe that if we follow him, we'll definitely be treated better. He Qinggang thought. Naive. You think Qin Feiyang is a match for them? Qin Feiyang only has 2 dominator weapons at most, but these people all have 1. Think about it. Even those youngsters all possess ruler armaments. Furthermore, they possess such powerful followers. As such, there's no need to mention the power behind them. Think about it, how terrifying is the force behind them. If we follow Qin Feiyang, we will be digging our own graves. The old ancestor of the He clan sneered. He Qinggang said, but these people don't take us seriously at all. I feel that in their eyes, we are as lowly as dogs. This old man knows. However, if you want to achieve great things, you must know how to endure. Bear with it. When they finish reconstructing their bodies, it will be the end of Qin Feiyang. The old ancestor of the He clan thought to himself with a cold glint in his eyes. He Qinggang said solemnly, there's also the Yun family. We definitely can't let them off. Of course. When the time comes, we will kill them all. From then on, the southern continent will be the world of our He clan. The old ancestor of the He clan nodded. The Yun family. Qin Feiyang and the old ancestor of the Yun family chatted happily. During their conversation, Qin Feiyang also learned the name of the old ancestor of the Yun family, Yun Zhongtian. As for the Yun family, other than the supreme expert Yun Zhongtian, there was another super expert called Yun Zhongyue. Yun Zhongyue was Yun Zhongtian's younger sister. She was now the temple master of the law enforcement hall and had also grasped the supreme profound. Although it was only an ordinary law and not the supreme profound of the supreme profound, in the sky cloud realm, it was still considered an existence that stood at the top of the pyramid. Apart from the siblings, Yun Guanghui also had two other brothers. Yun Guanghui was one of them. He was ranked the eldest. The other two were called Yun Guanghui and Yun Guangfu. The three brothers' cultivation was at the perfection sovereign realm. They had not comprehended the supreme profound, but their abilities were quite strong. For example, Yun Guanghui managed such a large family in an orderly manner by himself. There were also the elders of the Yun family. There were many elders in the Yun family and they were all very strong. However, 4 of them were particularly outstanding and famous in the southern continent. Because they were all people who had comprehended the supreme profound, they were now holding the position of elder in the temple. As for the other perfection sovereign realm experts, according to Yun Zhongtian, there were more than 2,000 of them. No matter where this force was placed, it could not be underestimated. Therefore, for Qin Feiyang, when the Yun family agreed to cooperate, it was like sending charcoal in snowy weather, adding to the joy. Qin Feiyang suddenly thought of something and looked at Yun Zhongtian. Elder Yun, I wonder if there is a young man called Yun Xiang in your Yun family? Yun Xiang. Yun Zhongtian and Yun Guanghui looked at each other, a bright light flashing in their eyes. Beside them, Yun Zifeng's expression also changed. Qin Feiyang looked at the changes in their expressions and asked suspiciously, could it be that Yun Xiang is really a member of your Yun family? The Yun Xiang you're talking about, does he look like this? Yun Zhongtian waved his hand and the image of a young man appeared. Yes. He has also grasped the law of space. Qin Feiyang nodded. Yun Zhongtian pondered for a moment and looked at Qin Feiyang. Since we've already formed an alliance, there's nothing to hide. That's right, Yun Xiang is indeed a member of my Yun family. Qin Feiyang was stunned. That was really the case. Yun Zhongtian laughed hoarsely. Moreover, Xiang and Zifeng are blood brothers. Blood brothers? Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback and looked up at Yun Zifeng. Yun Zifeng nodded. Yes, he's my big brother. Qin Feiyang heard this and smiled bitterly. To tell you the truth, we've also thought about it, but we haven't had the chance to confirm it. Not long ago, outside the Yin Devil land, I wanted to ask Yun Zifeng about it, but in the end, he was trembling with fear and couldn't communicate normally. Cough cough. Yun Zifeng coughed dryly and quickly winked at Qin Feiyang. Qin Dage, don't talk about this kind of thing. Trembling with fear. What do you mean? Yun Zhongtian and Yun Zifeng looked suspiciously at Yun Zifeng. Nothing, nothing, you can talk about yourselves. Yun Zifeng quickly waved his hand. The white-eyed wolf said, he was scared silly by little Qin Zi and couldn't even communicate normally. Big brother wolf, what are you doing? Are you trying to embarrass me? Yun Zifeng's expression stiffened and he looked at the white-eyed wolf with a wronged expression. With your trembling appearance, do you still need this big brother to embarrass you? The white-eyed wolf said with disdain. Yun Zifeng's face was bitter, and his heart was extremely uncomfortable. Yun Guanghui and Yun Zifeng finally understood and shook their heads with a smile. This is normal. Which young person in the sky cloud boundary isn't trembling with fear when they see you? The point is, I'm really not that scary. Qin Feiyang was helpless. Yun Guanghui smiled. It's not a question of whether you're scary or not, it's just that your methods are too powerful, making them instinctively feel fear. Qin Feiyang said, not necessarily, Yun Xiang has never been afraid of me. Yun Guanghui pondered for a moment and smiled. Xiang is another matter, because he has been wandering alone since he was young. Whether it is his character or courage, he is extraordinary. When he spoke of Yun Xiang, there was a trace of unconcealable pride on his face. Qin Feiyang said, in that case, Yun Xiang is that monstrous genius that your Yun clan has been hiding? Hidden, Yun Guanghui murmured, and there seemed to be a trace of pain between his brows. He looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, who told you this? Old Pei. It's him. Qin Feiyang said. So it's him. Yun Guanghui nodded in realization and sighed. Actually, it's not that we want to hide Xiang, it's that he wants to hide himself. White-eyed Wolf and Qin Feiyang were stunned. What did he mean? It's a long story. Although I don't know where Xiang is now. I believe that on the day the He family is destroyed, he will definitely appear. Yun Guanghui's hands unconsciously clenched, and there seemed to be hatred in his eyes. Qin Feiyang frowned and looked at Yun Zhongtian and Yun Zifeng. Both of them had the same reaction. It seemed that there was a sad past hidden in this. And it must be related to the He family. However, since the other party was unwilling to say, he would not force them. After all, this was their personal matter. But there was something he had to be clear about. Qin Feiyang looked at the three of them and said, when Yun Xiang appeared in the eastern mainland and had some interactions with me, I have been thinking, is he intentionally trying to get close to me? And this matter, does it have anything to do with the Yun family? You met him in the eastern mainland? The three of them were stunned and immediately got up to look at Qin Feiyang. Looking at the three's reaction, Qin Feiyang was caught off guard. They did not even know that Yun Xiang was in the eastern mainland. In that case, it must have nothing to do with the Yun family. Yes. Not long after I arrived in the eastern mainland, I met him. Qin Feiyang nodded. Yun Guanghui tensed up and asked carefully, did you have any conflicts? This, Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and smiled. There was a little friction, but it's nothing serious. That's good. Yun Guanghui breathed a sigh of relief and said, Xiang's life has not been easy. If he has done anything to offend you, please be magnanimous and forgive him for our sake. It's fine. Since he's your son, then everything in the past must be a misunderstanding. On the contrary, I have to apologize to him if I have the chance. I've always suspected that he was deliberately approaching me. Sometimes, I really hate my paranoia. It feels like everyone who gets close to me has ulterior motives. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. I can understand. After all, you're facing too many crises. Yun Guanghui smiled and shook his head. If you didn't tell me, I wouldn't have known that he was in the eastern mainland. Do you have a way to contact him now? I've tried. You should know about Tianyue Tower, right? Qin Feiyang asked. I've heard a little about it. Yun Guanghui nodded. There are two tower masters in Tianyue Tower. One is called Yuqing, and the other is called Yi Miao. They have a good relationship with Yun Xiang, and they have established a contractual bridge with each other. Maybe you don't know, but Yun Xiang was the one who established Tianyue Tower. But later, Yun Xiang left without saying a word. Until now, Yuqing and Yi Miao have not been able to contact him. Qin Feiyang said. Why can't they contact him? Could it be, Yun Guanghui's expression changed, and his body could not help but tremble. Could he be dead? Chapter 3500. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, Senior, don't worry. Yun Xiang should be fine. Didn't you say that you couldn't contact him? Yun Guanghui frowned. Although we can't contact him, his contract bridge is still there. That means he's still alive. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. That's good. Yun Guanghui patted his chest and sighed in relief. As long as he was still alive, everything was fine. Qin Feiyang looked at the three of them and said, You can try to contact him. Us? Yun Guanghui, Yun Zhongtian, and Yun Zifeng looked at each other with bitter smiles on their faces. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Yun Guanghui waved his hand, To tell you the truth, we didn't establish a contract bridge with him. Ah. Qin Feiyang looked at the three of them in shock. As family, father and son, and brothers, they actually didn't establish a contract bridge? Some things are really hard to explain in a few words. In short, Brother Qin, if you meet him again in the future, please tell him that we really miss him. If he has time, please come home and visit. Yun Guanghui sighed. Qin Feiyang looked deeply at Yun Guanghui and smiled, When I meet him in the future, it's the same as you meeting him. When the time comes, you can tell him yourself. What do you mean? Yun Guanghui was taken aback and looked suspiciously at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang said, This junior said before, facing the current dragons, this junior is powerless. Therefore, your Yun family can no longer stay in the southern mainland. Yun Guanghui and the Yun family's old ancestor looked at each other and then at Qin Feiyang, Then where are we going? To the eastern or western mainland? Didn't we escape the dragon's pursuit? Of course not to the eastern or western mainland. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Then where are we going? Both of them were puzzled. I'll bring you to a place. You'll know when you see it. Qin Feiyang put down the teacup and got up with a smile. The three of them looked at each other and nodded. Yun Guanghui and Yun Zhongtian put down their teacups as well. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and a group of people appeared in the sky above the Devil's Land. Where is this? Yun Guanghui and the other two looked down in surprise. This is my world, the Black Tortoise World. I believe that you all have heard of the Black Tortoise World. However, the Black Tortoise World is not a spatial divine object. It is an independent world. Qin Feiyang smiled. An independent world. The three of them exchanged glances and immediately released their divine sense in all directions. Soon, his face became lifeless. It was so big. Moreover, whether it was the beasts or humans, the number was beyond imagination. It was no different from an entire world. Qin Feiyang raised his hand and waved. A surge of rule power descended and floated in the air, emitting a destructive aura. This is, Yun Guanghui and the old ancestor of the Yun family trembled. Rule force. It was truly an independent world. Because it was impossible for a spatial divine object to possess rule force. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Actually, the fact that the Black Tortoise World is an independent world is not a secret. The people of the Blood Hall have long known about it, but for some reason, they did not announce it to the public. What reason? Could it be that Pei Tianhong and the others want to snatch the Black Tortoise World from your hands? Yun Zhongtian asked. Even if they had such thoughts, they would not dare to take action. Because back then, the reason why the Blood Hall was my enemy was actually related to the dragons. Qin Feiyang smiled. I see. At that time during the exchange, I was still wondering why the Blood Hall would make things difficult for a junior like you. It turns out that the dragons were behind it. Yun Zhongtian nodded in realization. Now, Pei Tianhong and the others' families are also in the Black Tortoise world. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Where are they? I don't see them. Yun Zhongtian glanced below and said. They are in the middle state and this is the Devil's Land. It can be considered this junior's base camp. Ordinary people can't step into this place. Qin Feiyang smiled. Then, isn't it an honor for us to be here now? Yun Zhongtian chuckled. Of course. Take a look at what's below us. The white-eyed wolf pointed at the ancient castle below. Yun Zhongtian looked down and his pupils shrunk. Wasn't that the rumored sovereign divine weapon? It turned out that there was a sovereign divine weapon guarding it. No wonder no one in the Black Tortoise world dared to barge into the Devil's Land. Qin Feiyang smiled, the Devil's Land is only so big and can't accommodate so many people. When the time comes, your Yun family will have to go to the middle state to enter the Black Tortoise world. But there doesn't seem to be a single person in this Devil's Land. What about Madman Mo and Pei Tianhong? Yun Guanghui was suspicious. Qin Feiyang said, they all live here, but they have all gone to cultivate now. Where are they cultivating? Yun Guanghui was surprised. It's not in the Black Tortoise world. It's a more mysterious place. Forgive this junior for not being able to tell you. Qin Feiyang smiled apologetically. A mysterious place, Yun Guanghui and Yun Zhongtian looked at each other in disbelief. These people actually had a secret cultivation place. Wait a minute. A sovereign divine weapon, an independent world, a slaughter domain comparable to a sovereign divine weapon, and even a secret cultivation place. Could there be a mysterious force behind this group of people? Yun Zifeng was also shocked to the extreme. He never thought that this person whose name shook the sky cloud world would have so many secrets. He glanced at the Black Tortoise world and looked at Yun Guanghui and Yun Zhongtian. Father, old ancestor, this place is indeed not bad. As long as we enter the Black Tortoise world, no matter how powerful the He family is, they won't be able to do anything to us. However, this is no different from abandoning the family and leaving home. Hearing this, the two of them fell silent. That's right. This was the same as the third option that the white-eyed wolf had proposed. Did they really have to abandon everything they had? No, there's a difference. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. What's the difference? Yun Zifeng was suspicious. If you find a remote mountain and hide, you'll lose everything completely. You won't have a chance to make a comeback. Moreover, if you hide in the sky cloud world, you'll still be hunted down by the He family. But it's different in the Black Tortoise world. Even if you give it up now, you can take it back in the future. Moreover, you don't have to worry about being hunted down by the He family. The most important thing is that the Black Tortoise world has a time array. Qin Feiyang smiled. Yun Zifeng said, who doesn't have a time array? My Yun family has one. Qin Feiyang smiled and asked, then how many years does your Yun family's time array have in a day? A top-grade time array, 500 years in a day. Yun Zifeng smiled proudly. Qin Feiyang was stunned. 500 years in a day was a top-grade time array. Yun Guanghui saw the change in Qin Feiyang's expression and coughed dryly. Zifeng, don't pretend to know when you don't know. What top grade? A true top grade time array isn't just 500 years in a day. That's right. If you say that, it makes you seem short-sighted. Yun Zhongtian also shook his head. Then, have you seen a time array that's more powerful than 500 years in a day? Yun Zifeng was unconvinced. Of course. The Black Tortoise world's time array is 1,000 years in a day. Even more powerful than the Black Tortoise World's time array, 5,000 years in a day, we've seen them all. The white-eyed wolf pursed his lips, his face full of disdain. What? The time array here is 1,000 years in a day. Yun Zifeng's expression froze. Yun Zhongtian and Yun Guanghui were also shocked. What shocked them the most was the last sentence. They had actually seen a time array that was 5,000 years in a day. Could it be that Pei Tianhong and the others were cultivating in seclusion in that time array that was 5,000 years in a day? The white-eyed wolf drank a mouthful of wine and looked at Yun Zifeng mockingly, asking, "Now, do you feel like you've never seen the world?" Yun Zifeng's expression was extremely awkward. Think about it carefully. If you enter the Black Tortoise world, not only will you be able to enjoy this time array that's 1,000 years in a day, you will also have a chance to turn the tables. Moreover, if little Qin Zi is happy, he might even give you a great fortune. The white-eyed wolf said. Fortune. The three of them were stunned. The white-eyed wolf looked at Yun Guanghui and Yun Zhongtian, saying, "For the two of you, this fortune is especially important." The two of them looked at each other and then at the white-eyed wolf, asking, "Can you be more specific?" More specific, the white-eyed wolf pondered for a moment, then his eyes suddenly lit up, saying, "Let's talk about Pei Tianhong and Wang Changyuan. They have already grasped two profound meanings." What? The two of them were shocked. How long had it been since they followed Qin Feiyang? They had already comprehended the second profound meaning. Could this so-called fortune be related to the profound meaning of laws? All right, you're the one who talks the most. Qin Feiyang secretly glared at the white-eyed wolf. He didn't even know what the Yun family was like, so what was the point of talking about this? At the very least, he had to see if they were really trustworthy before deciding whether to help them open the door of potential. Isn't this increasing the bargaining chip? Moreover, I didn't directly say the door of potential. The white-eyed wolf secretly said. Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly and looked at Yun Zhongtian and Yun Guanghui, saying, "Let's go sit in the tea garden." Okay. The two of them nodded and followed Qin Feiyang into the tea garden. Looking at the lush tea trees around them, a trace of surprise appeared on their faces. They didn't expect this young man to like tea. And these tea trees, they could tell at a glance that they were not ordinary tea trees and had been carefully cultivated. They really didn't expect this young man with a fierce reputation to have such a leisurely and carefree side. It seemed that they had underestimated this young man before. Qin Feiyang took out the tea leaves and tea set and began to brew tea. Soon, the aroma of the tea wafted out. Yun Zhongtian and Yun Guanghui's eyes lit up. This was the first time they had seen the aroma of tea. You can slowly discuss while drinking tea. I won't force you. It's all up to you. Even if you don't want to, we're still friends. Qin Feiyang poured 2 cups of tea and handed it to the two of them with a smile. The two of them looked at each other and took the teacups. They lowered their heads and sipped, hesitation in their eyes. To be honest, for anyone, giving up their family business and leaving their homeland was a difficult decision to make. Chapter 35:01. However, Yun Zifeng, on the other hand, was drinking with the white-eyed wolf without a care in the world. "Boss Wolf, this wine isn't very good, is there anything better?" While drinking with gusto, he was also disdainful. The white-eyed wolf said, "This was made in the Guanyu restaurant, it's indeed not very good." Guanyu restaurant? Yun Zifeng was taken aback and asked, "The Guanyu restaurant near the inner city of 7 Stars City?" N. The white-eyed wolf nodded. "The wine there is indeed not very good." Yun Zifeng shook his head and glanced at Yun Zhongtian. He quietly took out 2 jars of wine and said, "Brother Wolf, these are 2 jars of divine wine from my personal collection. It's a gift to you." Divine wine. The white-eyed wolf was stunned for a moment before his eyes lit up. He grabbed one of the jars and opened it, but after opening it, he couldn't help but be stunned. Could this be considered divine wine? At most, it was a top-grade wine. What's wrong? Yun Zifeng looked at it suspiciously. The white-eyed wolf pursed his lips and said, "Kid, you haven't seen divine wine before, have you? Big brother Lang, you're hurting yourself. I, Yun Zifeng, am the son of the Yun family's head. Without mentioning anything else, I've tasted this wine countless times. The 2 jars in front of you right now are the best wine I've ever tasted. Although it's not divine wine, it's not far from it." Yun Zifeng was dissatisfied. "Kid, you don't know anything, but you still don't admit it." The white-eyed wolf shook his head and took out a jar of black tortoise divine wine, saying, "I'll let you see what a real divine wine is." After saying that, he opened the jar and a divine dragon rushed out. Wine Chi Dragon. Yun Zifeng was dumbfounded. The rich wine aroma instantly filled the entire tea garden. Even Yun Zhongtian and Yun Zhongtian couldn't help turning their heads to look at the jar in front of the white-eyed wolf. "Kid, how is it?" The white-eyed wolf looked at Yun Zifeng and smiled proudly. Yun Zifeng leaned over and sniffed, his face immediately revealing an intoxicated expression. Looking at the wine inside, it was sparkling like nectar. "You want to drink again?" Seeing this, Yun Guanghui was about to reprimand him. He was against young people drinking because drinking would cause problems and cause them to lose focus. But Yun Zhongtian stopped him. "Ancestor, what are you doing? Aren't you also against young people drinking?" Yun Guanghui looked at Yun Zhongtian suspiciously. "It depends on who you're drinking with. If Si Feng can build a good relationship with them, then for him, he will benefit endlessly in the future." Yun Zhongtian transmitted his voice. Yun Guanghui smiled in realization. The old ancestor was indeed cunning. Yun Zhongtian retracted his gaze, no longer paying any attention to Yun Zifeng. Looking at Qin Feiyang, he said, "Now that things have come to this, there is nothing else to consider. This old man has decided to move the entire clan to the Black Tortoise world." "Great." Qin Feiyang laughed. He liked dealing with such straightforward people the most. People who dilly-dallied wouldn't be of much help even if they worked together. Yun Guanghui asked, "Then why don't you take us to the Central Plains to have a look?" "All right." Qin Feiyang nodded. Looking at the white-eyed wolf and Yun Zifeng, he shook his head and smiled. Then he put down his teacup, got up, and brought Yun Zhongtian and Yun Guanghui to descend in the sky above Zhongzhou. Zhongzhou. Although there were people from the Blood Hall living there now, even with the addition of 6,000 shadow guards, there were only a few thousand people. Therefore, Zhongzhou was still the base camp of the beasts. As for Pei Dason and the others, although they had children over the years, there were only a dozen families in total. How many children could they have? So, the people of Zhongzhou were about the same as before. Yun Zhongtian and Yun Guanghui released their divine sense to observe Zhongzhou. It was really bigger than they imagined. Our Black Tortoise world has a total of 6 places. The Devil's Land, Zhongzhou, Western Domain, Eastern Domain, Southern Domain, and Northern Domain. Apart from the Western Domain, there are living creatures in the other places, and Zhongzhou is the base camp of the beasts. Qin Feiyang introduced a little, then looked at the two seriously and said, "There is a request that this junior must explain to you first." "Speak." Both of them retracted their divine sense and looked at Qin Feiyang. "Since the Yun family is in Zhongzhou, I will not favor one and discriminate against the other. The resources that should be given will be given. However, the peace of the Black Tortoise world must not be disturbed. If anyone dares to cause trouble in the Black Tortoise world and destroy the order, especially harming the living creatures of the Black Tortoise world, then at that time, don't blame me for not showing mercy to the 2 seniors." Qin Feiyang said. "That's for sure. Even if you don't say it, we will still restrain our clansmen." Yun Guanghui nodded. "That's good. You don't know. Everyone in the Black Tortoise world, every beast, has a great kindness to me. It can be said that I can't repay it in my lifetime, so I can only silently protect them. Qin Feiyang said. Yun Zhongtian smiled and said, to be able to have this kind of affection, it shows that you, Qin Feiyang, are indeed a young man who values friendship and righteousness. It's not to that extent. This junior is just repaying kindness with kindness. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Yun Zhongtian and Yun Guanghui looked at each other and smiled. To be able to do this was already very difficult. Because in today's world of mutual deception and selfishness, most people would repay kindness with evil. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, all right then, there's no time to lose. Go out and gather your clansmen immediately. That's simple. Yun Zhongtian smiled but then frowned and said solemnly, however, there's one thing this old man is worried about. What is it? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. My Yun family has planted spies in the He family and similarly, the He family has planted spies in my Yun family. The key point is, these spies are hidden very well. We don't even know who they are. If we don't ferret out these spies now, when they enter the Black Tortoise world, I'm afraid it will cause a lot of trouble. Moreover, if they inform the He family of this when they are moving, the He family might make their move earlier. Yun Zhongtian said worriedly. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but frown. This was indeed a difficult problem. If Yun Zhongtian and the others knew about these spies, it would be fine, as they could get rid of them on the spot. But now, they didn't know anything. Who knows, someone close to them might be one of the He family's spies. Yun Guanghui pondered for a moment before nodding, we do need to think of a safe plan. How many clansmen does your Yun family have? Qin Feiyang asked. That depends on how we count. If we only count the direct descendants, naturally there aren't that many, at most a few thousand. But if we count all the branches, then my Yun family has at least a few 100,000 clansmen. If we count the forces we've nurtured, it would be more than 1 million. Yun Guanghui said. So many? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yun Guanghui smiled, after all, we've been developing for so many years. Scary. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled bitterly. As the second-ranked family, the Yun family already had such a terrifying foundation, then wouldn't the number one family, the He family, be even more shocking? Moreover, there were more than 1 million people. To read their memories one by one was definitely unrealistic. Was there any way to quickly eliminate the spies? Why don't we look for He Qinggang? Yun Guanghui suddenly said. Look for He Qinggang. Qin Feiyang and Yun Zhongtian looked at him suspiciously. That's right. As the head of the He family, He Qinggang must know about the spies hidden in our Yun family. As long as we capture him and force him to speak, we can naturally catch them all in one fell swoop. Yun Guanghui's eyes flashed coldly. When Qin Feiyang heard that, he nodded and said, this method is feasible, but at this time, He Qinggang shouldn't dare to leave the He family. If he doesn't leave the He family, then I won't be able to deal with him because the dragon's men are hiding in the He family. If I go there, I'll be walking right into their trap. That's true. Yun Guanghui nodded. Now that the He family knew that Qin Feiyang wanted to deal with them, before the dragon's men could reconstruct their bodies, they would definitely hide in the He family. Yun Zhongtian suddenly spoke up, no, for this matter, we can let the Yun family step forward. The Yun family step forward. Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback, then slapped his head and nodded, that's right, you can let the Yun family step forward because the He family still doesn't know that the Yun family has already formed an alliance with me, so they won't be too wary of you. As long as Yun Zhongtian and Yun Guanghui could lure He Qinggang out, then capturing him would be a piece of cake. Then what should we use as bait? Also, what if he asks us to go to the He family directly? We need to consider these uncertain factors in advance. Yun Guanghui said. Actually, this isn't difficult. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and looked at Yun Guanghui with a smile, did you suggest to He Qinggang to form a contract bridge? Yes. Although the Yun family and He family are enemies, we are still from the southern continent. Sometimes, if we encounter any difficulties, both our families need to work together. Yun Guanghui nodded. Qin Feiyang said, then you can send a message to him now and I'll teach you what to say. All right. Yun Guanghui nodded and took out the divine sound transmission stone. Qin Feiyang and Yun Zhongtian walked to the opposite side of Yun Guanghui. This way, when He Qinggang arrived, he would only see Yun Guanghui and not Qin Feiyang and Yun Zhongtian. Yun Guanghui took a deep breath and activated the divine sound transmission stone. Time passed breath by breath. After about 10 breaths, the divine sound transmission stone finally reacted and a figure appeared. It was He Qinggang. Old Yun, why are you still in the mood to send me a message? He Qinggang looked at Yun Guanghui and laughed. I'm here to advise you to restrain your grief. Yun Guanghui immediately retorted, not to be outdone. When He Qinggang heard this, his face darkened and said, I didn't expect you to receive the news so quickly. Yun Guanghui laughed, your own son self-destructed in front of you. Such a big matter, it's hard for me not to know. Shut up. He Qinggang's face turned cold. No need to quarrel with him, just tell him your purpose. Qin Feiyang said inwardly. Yun Guanghui secretly agreed and looked at He Qinggang, saying, I'm not here to quarrel with you. I'm sending you a message because I have something to discuss with you. What's there to discuss between us? He Qinggang smiled coldly. Tell him like this, Qin Feiyang secretly sent a message to Yun Guanghui. When Yun Guanghui heard this, he looked at He Qinggang and said, what He Tian said, Zi Feng has already told me. You guys are really despicable. You don't have the ability, but you actually joined forces with others to deal with my Yun family. Chapter 3502. He Qinggang sneered. Since you already know, I might as well tell you directly. If you want to discuss this matter, just shut up. Are you sure? Don't regret it. Yun Guanghui's eyes darkened slightly. With that group of mysterious experts helping the He family, what do I have to regret? You'd better think of a way to escape. He Qinggang sneered. Yun Guanghui glanced at Qin Feiyang and said to He Qinggang, all right, I'm begging you. Begging me? He Qinggang was stunned. That's right. Although our two families have been fighting openly and secretly, it's undeniable that the ancestors of our two families were good brothers. Since that's the case, why do we have to fight to the death? Yun Guanghui sighed. Yun Guanghui, it's really rare to hear such words coming out of your mouth. He Qinggang laughed. Yun Guanghui said in a low voice, I know that you have something against me, and I'm also very unhappy with you, but you can't be so ruthless. What's the use of talking to me about this now? He Qinggang sneered. Yun Guanghui said, if it's useless, then let's not talk about it. I'll tell you my purpose. I want to use two things in exchange for the peace of the Yun family. What are they? He Qinggang was suspicious. The control of the sovereign divine weapon and the control of the temple. In other words, as long as you agree to let the Yun family live, we're willing to hand over the sovereign divine weapon and the other half of the control of the temple. Yun Guanghui said. He Qinggang was quite surprised when he heard this. He had never thought that Yun Guanghui would send him a message to hand over the control of these two major powers. Hasn't the He family always wanted the control of the temple and the sovereign divine weapon? Shouldn't you be happy that I'm taking the initiative to give it to you? Yun Guanghui snorted coldly. I'm quite happy. However, I don't think it's necessary. Because the Yun family will be destroyed by the He family sooner or later. Do we need you to give it to us? He Qinggang laughed, not hiding his sarcasm. That's not necessarily true. Even a rabbit will bite when it's cornered. If you really force me into a corner, I also have a way to punish your He clan. Yun Guanghui said in a deep voice. He Qinggang was stunned when he heard that. He said with a playful face, then tell me, what method do you have to punish my He family? He was naturally aware of the Yun family's situation. Other than the great ancestor of the Yun family, Yun Zhongyue, and the 4 elders who served as elders in the temple, none of them could be brought to the table. And these people were simply unable to withstand a single blow from that group of mysterious people. Do I have to say it? All right. Your He clan isn't too peaceful right now, right? Because I was targeted by Qin Feiyang. If you push me too far, I'll go find Qin Feiyang. Yun Guanghui said. How dare you? He Qingdang's face sank. If you really force me into a corner, do you think I'll dare to do it? Yun Guanghui sneered. He Qinggang clenched his fists, but suddenly laughed out loud. He nodded and said, sure, go find him. With Qin Feiyang's little strength, it's not enough to fill the gaps between the teeth of those mysterious people. When that time comes, your Yun family will have no way to survive. That's not necessarily true. I heard that the bodies of those mysterious people were destroyed by Qin Feiyang. Besides, even if Qin Feiyang isn't a match for those mysterious people, he's more than enough to deal with your He clan. After all, he has 2 Dominator divine weapons. As for your He clan, if my Yun clan doesn't hand over the control of the Dominator divine weapons, you won't be able to take them out. At that time, facing Qin Feiyang's fury, what can your He clan use to contend against him? Yun Guanghui sneered. His eyes were full of mockery. He Qingdang's face sank again. Yun Guanghui continued, can you guarantee that those mysterious people will continue to stay in your He clan? You must know Qin Feiyang's methods. As long as those mysterious people leave the He clan, it will be the end of your He clan. But if you listen to me, your He clan will have control of the sovereign divine weapons. By then, even if Qin Feiyang comes, your He clan will still be able to protect itself. And your He clan will only need to give my Yun clan a safe place to live. Isn't this a good deal? Yun Guanghui's words were logical and reasonable, causing He Qingdang's face to darken. Indeed. The dragons couldn't protect the He clan forever. Moreover, Qin Feiyang was a man of many tricks, appearing and disappearing unpredictably. If they could gain control of the sovereign divine weapons, they would have more protection. This is my greatest sincerity. Think about it carefully. Yun Guanghui said and turned off the divine voice transmission stone. He looked at Qin Feiyang and Yun Zhongtian and smiled. Now, we will wait for his reply. He will definitely agree. Qin Feiyang smiled. Why do you say so? Yun Guanghui and Yun Zhongtian looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. He was so sure. Because you have already said so much. Can't they think about it carefully? And I think they will definitely plan to do so. First, they will pretend to agree to your request. First, they will take control of the temple and the sovereign divine weapons from your hands. Then, they will get rid of the Yun clan. Because once they have the sovereign divine weapons, they will no longer need the help of the Dragon Hall to get rid of the Yun clan. Qin Feiyang laughed. That makes sense. The 2 nodded and couldn't help but give Qin Feiyang a thumbs up. He really analyzed the human heart thoroughly. The He clan. What? They will voluntarily give up control of the temple and the sovereign divine weapons. In a large hall, the He clan's old ancestor looked at He Qinggang in shock. That's right. Just now, Yun Guanghui personally sent me a message saying that as long as we let the Yun clan go, he will voluntarily hand over control to us. He Qinggang nodded. What if we don't agree? The He clan's old ancestor asked. He Qinggang said, if we don't agree, then they will go find Qin Feiyang and fight us to the death. The He clan's old ancestor raised his eyebrows. This Qin Feiyang was really like a mountain, pressuring him to the point that he couldn't breathe. He lowered his voice and asked, what do you think? I think we can agree to their request first. He Qinggang nodded. First. The He clan's old ancestor was stunned. That's right. That is, we will agree to their request first. After we get control of the sovereign divine weapons, we will go and kill them. Won't that be easy? He Qinggang sneered. That makes sense. The He clan's old ancestor's eyes lit up. Then, should I send him a message now? He Qinggang asked. All right. The He clan's old ancestor nodded. He Qinggang took out the divine sound transmission stone. The black tortoise whirled. Looking at the constantly buzzing divine sound transmission stone, Yun Guanghui smiled at Qin Feiyang and said, "He's here." The two of them couldn't help but smile at each other. As the divine sound transmission stone awakened, He Qinggang appeared. The He clan's old ancestor also landed beside He Qinggang and looked at Yun Guanghui, asking, "Does that old man Yun Zhongtian know about this?" Of course this old man knows. This is what this old man means. Yun Zhongtian took a step forward and landed beside Yun Guanghui, looking at the He clan's old ancestor. The He clan's old ancestor laughed loudly. "I really didn't expect that a wretched old man like you would beg my He clan for mercy one day." Humph. The deity's Templar's temple lord, the overlord of the southern continent, actually became someone else's lackey. This old man really doesn't know what you have to be so proud of. Yun Zhongtian snorted coldly, his eyes filled with disdain. Hearing that, a cold light flashed in the He clan's old ancestor's eyes and he laughed. "This is called a wise man submits to circumstances. Moreover, my He clan is cooperating with those mysterious people, how can I be their lackey? Old man Yun, don't be jealous. For them to come to my He clan means that in their eyes, my He clan is the true ruler of the southern continent." Yes. I'm jealous, all right. Enough with the nonsense and give us an answer. Yun Zhongtian said. The He clan's old ancestor nodded. All right, this old man accepts your suggestion. But this old man has an additional condition. Your Yun clan must become a subsidiary of my He clan. Impossible. Yun Zhongtian shouted, his face filled with rage. Yun Guanghui's face was ugly as he said in a low voice, "My Yun clan has already made such a big concession. I advise you not to push us too far." Is this bullying you? No, this old man is just taking care of you. Because once you hand over control of the deity's Templar and the sovereign divine weapon, your status in the southern continent will instantly plummet. By then, you might even be targeted by other noble families. But if you become a subsidiary of my He clan, then even if your Yun clan is destroyed, with my He clan support, no one would dare to have any designs on you. The He clan's old ancestor chuckled, looking as if he had them in his grasp. You don't have to worry about that. My Yun clan doesn't care about the other noble families. As long as your He clan doesn't come looking for trouble with us, it's fine. If you continue to force us like this, then this old man will have no choice but to look for Qin Feiyang. Yun Zhongtian said in a low voice, his face ashen. This He family was indeed a wolf with wild ambitions. If they didn't choose to form an alliance with Qin Feiyang, then no matter what choice the Yun clan made, they would still end up in the hands of the He clan. In short, the He clan would not let them off so easily. Don't be agitated, don't be agitated. As you said, the ancestors of our two clans are good brothers. There's no need to fight like they're mortal enemies. There's also no need to let an outsider like Qin Feiyang get involved. All right. This old man promises you that as long as you hand over control of the deity's Templar and the sovereign divine weapon, this old man will no longer target your Yun clan. The He clan's old ancestor smiled. Live our own lives and have nothing to do with each other? Yun Zhongtian asked. That's right. Live our own lives and have nothing to do with each other. The He clan's old ancestor nodded. Then swear it. Yun Zhongtian said. All right, I swear it. The He clan's old ancestor nodded with a smile as he pointed to the skies and said in a sonorous voice, if I go against this oath, this He clan's old ancestor shall suffer the wrath of the heavens. And when Yun Zhongtian mentioned the oath, Qin Feiyang's heart stirred. Could he make use of this opportunity to make the He clan's old ancestor swear a blood oath? That way, he would be able to get rid of a formidable opponent without breaking a sweat. But thinking about it from another perspective, the blood oath would cause a strange phenomenon to descend from the heavens, and it would definitely alarm the princes and princesses of the dragons. That would be as good as alerting the snake in the grass, so he decisively gave up on that idea. Chapter 3503. Swearing was equivalent to farting, and this was something that the He family's old master and He Qinggang, Yun Zhongtian and Yun Guanghui were well aware of, but not a single one of them dared to point it out. Because they all had their own ulterior motives. The He family's old master smiled and said, "It's fine now, right? Speak, how do we make this deal? How else can we make this deal? Our Yun family has made such a huge concession, and you want us to personally deliver it to you? Of course you have to come to our Yun family to get it." Yun Zhongtian said. "We'll come to your Yun family to get it." The He family's old master was slightly taken aback before he mocked, "Could this be a trap? You're rather sharp." Qin Feiyang grumbled. "If you think it's a trap, then take it as if this deal has never happened. What kind of person is this? Our Yun family has already lowered ourselves, and what more do you want?" Yun Zhongtian snorted coldly. Don't be angry, don't be angry. It's just a joke." The He family's old master chuckled and muttered to himself for a while before he looked at Yun Zhongtian and said, "It's better if you deliver it to us personally. Only then can you prove the sincerity of your Yun family." "Good idea. When we deliver it personally, you can borrow the hands of those mysterious people to force us to stay in the He family. When that happens, our Yun family will be without a leader, and it will be easier for you to destroy our Yun family." Yun Zhongtian laughed coldly. Cough cough. The He family's old master coughed dryly and said helplessly, "You old man, can't there be a little more trust between people? I've already made a vow and you still can't trust me. We've fought for so many years. How could this old man not know what kind of person you are? The location of the deal will definitely not be in your 7-star city, and it will definitely not be in your family's lands." Yun Zhongtian's attitude was resolute. Towards this matter, there was no room for discussion. "You're making things a little difficult for me." The He family's old master frowned. "You don't even dare to come to Cloud Han City. Looks like you're rather afraid of our Yun family." Yun Zhongtian mocked him. "Afraid?" The He family's old master laughed out loud and shook his head. "The current Yun family, this old man really does not know what is there to be afraid of. But one must always be wary. How about this, we each take a step back and make the deal to do it in the White Phoenix Range." White Phoenix Mountain Range. Yun Zhongtian could not help but furrow his brows. "This is the greatest concession I can make. And only Yun Guanghui is allowed to come," the old ancestor of the He clan said in a deep voice. Yun Zhongtian could not help but glance at Qin Feiyang, and Qin Feiyang nodded his head. Yun Zhongtian looked at the old ancestor of the He family and nodded his head. "All right, but your He family will only allow He Qinggang to come here alone. Don't say that this old man did not warn you. If you dare to play any tricks at that time, the worst that can happen is that the fish dies and the net splits. Why do we have to resort to underhanded means when it can be solved peacefully? See you at the White Phoenix Mountain Range in an hour." The old ancestor of the He clan chuckled, and the shadow quickly dissipated. Yun Zhongtian heaved a sigh of relief as well. At least he had successfully completed the first step. Qin Feiyang was silent for a moment as he looked at the two men in Yun Zhongtian and asked, "Where is the White Phoenix Mountains?" The White Phoenix Mountains is between the 7-Star River and the Cloud Han City, and it is very close to the temple. I think the He clan is planning to go to the temple immediately after obtaining control of the sovereign divine weapon to request for the divine weapon. Yun Zhongtian gave a cold laugh, thinking that it was really wishful thinking. Qin Feiyang nodded his head in realization and asked, "The place where the sovereign divine weapon is placed, can only be opened by the keys in the hands of the two of you?" "That's right." Yun Zhongtian nodded his head. "What kind of key?" Qin Feiyang asked suspiciously. Yun Zhongtian waved his hand and a jade pendant the size of a baby's fist flew out from his chi ocean. It was crescent-shaped, simple and unadorned, but it exuded an obscure aura. "This is the key." Yun Zhongtian handed the jade pendant over to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang took the jade pendant and looked at it carefully. "There are two pieces of this jade pendant. One is in my hands and the other is in the hands of the He clan. Only when the two jade pendants are placed together will the doors of the Divine Weapon Pavilion open. The Divine Weapon Pavilion is where the sovereign divine weapon is placed." Yun Zhongtian explained. Qin Feiyang asked suspiciously, "Then how are you going to give him control of the temple?" "That's simple. Just give my deputy temple master identity token to the He clan." Yun Zhongtian said. Qin Feiyang nodded and suddenly asked, "Then this divine weapon pavilion, can a sovereign divine weapon be used to forcefully open it?" "This." Yun Zhongtian thought for a while and shook his head, "I have not tried. Because the divine weapon pavilion has been tempered by a sovereign divine weapon. Logically speaking, if there is enough time, it should be possible to forcefully open the divine weapon pavilion. So it has been tempered by a sovereign divine weapon." Qin Feiyang mumbled. Normally, only a sovereign divine weapon would be able to open something tempered by a sovereign divine weapon. To others, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Because in the entire southern continent, there was only one sovereign divine weapon. But to Qin Feiyang, it was not a difficult task. To the dragons, it was even less of a difficult task because the dragons had more sovereign divine weapons. Wait a minute. If the dragons were able to open the divine weapon pavilion, then why would the He clan be so anxious to get the key in Yun Zhongtian's hands? Because as long as they could convince the dragons and get the dragons to help them, it would be a matter of minutes. In other words, there was no need for the key in Yun Zhongtian's hands. What are you thinking about? Yun Zhongtian and Yun Zhongtian looked suspiciously at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang voiced out the doubts in his heart. About that. It's simple. The He clan must be worried that the dragons would snatch away this sovereign divine weapon. After all, with the power of the dragons, if they wanted to take this sovereign divine weapon for themselves, the He clan would not dare to not give it to them. But if it is in the hands of the He clan, then it is a different matter altogether. After all, the might of a sovereign divine weapon is enough to destroy the heavens and earth. Even the dragons would have to think twice before doing so. Taking a step back, even if the dragons had such thoughts, they would not dare to push the He clan too hard, as they would still need to make use of the He clan's connections to deal with you. Yun Zhongtian said. Qin Feiyang nodded his head. There is still one more important point. The sovereign divine weapon of our temple is a rather stubborn fellow. Yun Zhongtian smiled bitterly. Stubborn? Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback. What did he mean by that? That's right, stubborn. It only recognizes the two jade pendants in our hands. Simply put, without those two jade pendants, even if you were to force your way into the divine weapon pavilion, it would not listen to you, and would not follow you. You possess two sovereign divine weapons, so you should know that such a stubborn sovereign divine weapon is a huge headache. Yun Zhongtian shook his head, his face full of helplessness. Hearing that, Qin Feiyang could not help but smile bitterly. He could really empathize with it. Because the ancient castle had such a stubborn character. Without the sovereign divine weapon, it would definitely not make a move. Qin Feiyang asked, according to what you said, if we want to gain the support of this sovereign divine weapon, we have to think of a way to get the jade pendant in the hands of the He clan's old ancestor. That's right. Yun Zhongtian nodded. It can't be flexible at all. Qin Feiyang asked. No. Whether it is me or the He clan's old ancestor, we have always called it Old Fogey. Yun Zhongtian smiled helplessly. Then it will be a little difficult. I had originally planned to go to the temple after getting rid of the spy, and help you snatch the sovereign divine weapon. In this way, our chances of winning against the dragons in the future would be much higher. Qin Feiyang sighed. It won't work. Yun Zhongtian shook his head. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment, gritting his teeth. Whether it works or not, we'll still go and try. We'll talk to it nicely. I believe that as long as we show full sincerity, as long as what we say is right, it will support us. Up to you. If we can really gain its support, it will be a great thing for us. Yun Zhongtian nodded, but he did not hold much hope in his heart. Because they had been together for so many years, he understood this sovereign divine weapon's character all too well. Qin Feiyang smiled, then let's make some preparations and go to the White Phoenix mountain range. It was impossible for the He clan to let Yun Guanghui go alone, because if the He clan played any tricks behind their back, not only would they lose the key, even Yun Guanghui would be in trouble. Besides, with Yun Guanghui's strength alone, it was impossible for him to take down the He Qinggang. Therefore, Qin Feiyang and Yun Zhongtian had to go personally. Yun Guanghui pondered for a moment before looking at Yun Zhongtian. Old ancestor, why don't you stay in the Black Tortoise world? If anything happens, you can come out to help. Sure. Yun Zhongtian nodded. In fact, he had the same thought. No. Both of you stay in the Black Tortoise world. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. Ah. Both of them were taken aback, hurriedly asking, if we stay in the Black Tortoise world, then who's going to make the deal with He Qinggang? Of course it's me. Qin Feiyang chuckled. You. Both of them looked at each other. With the He clan's cautious attitude, when they arrive at the White Phoenix mountain range, they will definitely spread out their divine sense to search the surroundings, so no matter how I hide, it's useless. Qin Feiyang said. Even in the Black Tortoise world, his divine sense can still find us. Yun Zhongtian asked. Although his divine sense can't find me through the Black Tortoise world, it can still capture the Black Tortoise world. When he discovers the Black Tortoise world, wouldn't that be the same as discovering us? That's why I have to make the deal with him, that's why he can't find you hiding in the Black Tortoise world. Qin Feiyang smiled. But he specifically asked me to go. Yun Guanghui asked. Isn't that simple? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, swallowed an illusory appearance pill, and transformed into Yun Guanghui's appearance. So that's how it is. Yun Guanghui was enlightened, giving him a thumbs up, smiling, smart indeed, but your cultivation doesn't seem to match mine. Yun Guanghui was a perfect circle sovereign. And Qin Feiyang was just a perfect circle sovereign. That's simple. Hide your cultivation. At this time, I don't believe that he'll purposely ask about my cultivation. Qin Feiyang said. Yun Guanghui pondered for a while, then nodded with a smile, that's fine too. After all, what they desire the most now is to obtain control of the deity's Templar and the sovereign divine weapon, so they won't care too much about these small details. Moreover, I'm a low-key person, so I often hide my cultivation in front of outsiders. Then that's it. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, bringing the two of them to the tea garden. He looked at the white-eyed wolf and said, "Stop drinking, let's get down to business." Chapter 3504. What business do you have? The white-eyed wolf raised its head and looked at Qin Feiyang with drunken eyes. As for Yun Zifeng, he was already drunk to the point of unconsciousness, sprawled on the ground, snoring loudly. On the ground, there were dozens of wine jars. Looking at this scene, Yun Guanghui's face darkened. How could he drink so much in such a short time? He really had no restraint at all. Sure enough, it was impossible to not restrain young people these days. Qin Feiyang was also helpless. He looked at the white-eyed wolf and said, I don't need you to do anything. Just send me to the White Phoenix Mountain Range. White Phoenix Mountain Range. The white-eyed wolf was slightly taken aback and asked suspiciously, what the hell is that place? Qin Feiyang looked at Yun Zhongtian and said, give it the coordinates and your identity token. After Yun Zhongtian gave the white-eyed wolf the coordinates, he took out a palm-sized token and handed it to Qin Feiyang. It was golden in color, as if it was made of gold. On the front was the word divine and on the back were the words Yun Zhongtian. This token was the same as the one that Chu Yun had given to Qin Feiyang and the others. With this token, one could do whatever they wanted in the southern continent. Qin Feiyang put away the token and the key to the divine weapon pavilion. Then, he brought the white-eyed wolf to the main hall outside. The white-eyed wolf waved its paw and a space-time transmission channel immediately appeared. You go back to the Black Tortoise world first and come out to help at any time. Qin Feiyang instructed and sent the white-eyed wolf to the Black Tortoise world. Then, he stepped into the space-time transmission channel alone. As for Old Black, he was still waiting outside, completely unaware that the group had already left the Yun family. White Phoenix Mountain Range. Mountains stacked on top of each other. At the very center, a giant peak towered into the sky, covered with white birch trees. From afar, it looked like a white phoenix about to spread its wings and soar. Qin Feiyang took a step forward and landed on the peak of the mountain, waiting silently. Time passed quietly. About half an hour passed. In the distance, a figure broke through the air and flew over. However, he did not enter the White Phoenix Mountain Range directly. He stood at the edge and scanned the mountain peak. It was He Qinggang. He acted very cautiously. Soon, he saw Qin Feiyang standing at the top of the mountain. After observing for a while, He Qinggang scanned other places again. Suddenly, his eyes flashed, and a majestic divine sense erupted like a volcano, surging forward in all directions. In just an instant, his divine sense had enveloped the entire White Phoenix Mountain Range. Qin Feiyang also immediately sensed He Qinggang's divine sense. He raised his head and looked over, a glint flashing in his eyes. How dare they launch a surprise attack? This person's cautiousness was beyond imagination. A moment passed. After confirming that there was no third person present, He Qinggang flew towards Qin Feiyang. However, he did not retract his divine perception, which continued to envelop the entire White Phoenix Mountain Range. It's impolite not to reciprocate. I also want to see if you brought anyone with you. Qin Feiyang said. His divine sense surged out and enveloped the entire White Phoenix Mountain Range in an instant. Don't worry, I still have this bit of integrity. He Qinggang chuckled and landed in front of Qin Feiyang. He stretched out his hand and said, cut the crap, hand over the token and key. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the token and key appeared, floating in front of him. He Qinggang's eyes suddenly revealed a trace of greed. You have to promise that after getting the token and key, you won't attack my Yun family. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. Hearing this, He Qinggang raised his eyebrows and said angrily, didn't you already swear before? What else do you want? The so-called oath, do you think it's reliable? Qin Feiyang said. He Qinggang's anger became more and more obvious, and he said impatiently, then tell me, what do you want me to do? I don't know, but I always feel that you're not trustworthy. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Are you going to change your mind at the last minute? He Qinggang frowned. Qin Feiyang remained silent. He Qinggang said in a deep voice, let me tell you, I'm very sincere in wanting to reconcile with your Yun family, so you'd better not push your luck. Otherwise, it won't do your Yun family any good. Qin Feiyang was silent for a while, and sighed helplessly. He waved his hand, and the token and key flew toward He Qinggang. He Qinggang was overjoyed, and he hurried forward to grab the token and key. After confirming their authenticity, he laughed and said, good, 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 from today onwards, the southern continent belongs to my He family. I hope you'll keep your word. Qin Feiyang said. Don't worry, I won't make things difficult for your Yun family, but, He Qinggang then changed the topic, and the murderous intent in his eyes was undisguised. He laughed and said, I'll kill your entire Yun family, and I'll start with you. Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, a terrifying aura exploded, and a gloomy old man appeared next to He Qinggang. It was the old ancestor of the He family. You, Qin Feiyang was instantly enraged. I'm sorry, if you want to blame someone, blame your Yun family for being too naive. Did you really think this old man would let He Qinggang come alone? Did you really think that this old man would let your Yun family go after you hand over the token and key? The old ancestor of the He family laughed sinisterly. Damn it! You went back on your word. Aren't you afraid of being ridiculed by the world? Qin Feiyang shouted angrily. Ridiculed? As long as you die here, who will know? The old ancestor of the He family sneered coldly, and a terrifying aura rolled out, enveloping Qin Feiyang. What a wild ambition! However, it's not only your He family that's smart, my Yun family isn't stupid either. Qin Feiyang's face turned cold, and with a thought, Yun Zhongtian appeared next to him. What? He Qinggang and Yun Zhongtian raised their eyebrows. This old man knew you can't be trusted. Yun Zhongtian's face was gloomy to the extreme, and his divine power erupted, like an invisible torrent, fiercely colliding with the aura of the old ancestor of the He family. With a loud bang, the White Phoenix mountain range was instantly razed to the ground, and dust billowed, covering the sky and the sun. The old ancestor of the He family's eyes flashed with a cold light, and shouted, If you have the guts, go to the galaxy and fight, so as not to hurt innocent people. As you wish. Today, either you die or I die. Yun Zhongtian took a step forward, and headed straight for the galaxy. The old ancestor of the He family and He Qinggang looked at each other, and a sinister smile appeared in their eyes as they rushed towards the galaxy at the same time. What's going on? Qin Feiyang was a little confused. According to his previous deduction, after the two of them obtained the key, shouldn't they have rushed back to the temple to take out the sovereign divine weapon of the Divine Weapon Pavilion? But why weren't they in a hurry at all, and still so confident in killing them? There was something wrong with this. Because it was too abnormal. However, to him, this might be an opportunity. Because before this, he was still thinking about how to gain the trust of the sovereign divine weapon, and gain its support. Now, the appearance of the old ancestor of the He family had undoubtedly given him this opportunity. Because as long as he snatched the key from the old ancestor of the He family, and gathered the two keys, the sovereign divine weapon would be given to them. Man proposes, God disposes. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Who would have thought that the old ancestor of the He family would take the initiative to come knocking on their door? Following that, Qin Feiyang also swept into the galaxy like lightning, and saw that in the depths of the galaxy, Yun Zhongtian and He Qinggang stood facing each other, their eyes flashing with a cold light. Qin Feiyang walked to Yun Zhongtian's side and looked at He Qinggang and He Qinggang opposite him, and said with a smile, I really don't know who gave you the courage to attack us now. If I were you, I would first go to the temple and take out the sovereign divine weapon of the Divine Weapon Pavilion before attacking the Yun family. Ha! When He Qinggang and He Qinggang heard this, they couldn't help but laugh. What are they doing? This is completely out of our expectations. Yun Zhongtian replied. Many things can change in an instant, so not everything can be predicted by us. But this is exactly what I want, because as long as we can get the key in the hands of the old ancestor of the He family, we will be able to gain control of the sovereign divine weapon. Qin Feiyang smiled inwardly. Yun Zhongtian was taken aback, and said to himself, that makes sense. But their reaction now is indeed a little strange. Say, do you think they could have borrowed the sovereign divine weapon from the dragons? Otherwise, where would they find such confidence? They even took the initiative to invite us into the galaxy for a battle to the death. Qin Feiyang raised an eyebrow without a trace, looking at He Qinggang and He Qinggang, who were brimming with confidence, and said, "You don't say, there really is such a possibility. Then should we run?" Yun Zhongtian asked secretly. Run? Qin Feiyang was stunned for a moment before he replied, "Not to that extent, because even if the dragons were willing to lend them the sovereign divine weapon, they would not lend them all at once. And they would not have the guts to borrow so many from the dragons. My guess is that even so, they would at most have one sovereign divine weapon." One sovereign divine weapon? Yun Zhongtian murmured. If there is only one sovereign divine weapon, then there is nothing to worry about. Qin Feiyang said. That's true. Yun Zhongtian smiled inwardly. One sovereign divine weapon was not a match for Qin Feiyang. And right at that moment, the old ancestor of the He family stopped laughing and looked at Qin Feiyang and Yun Zhongtian to say, "Initially, we had indeed planned to go to the temple to retrieve the sovereign divine weapon the moment we got the key, but now we have changed our plans. Because even without that sovereign divine weapon, it would be easy for us to kill the two of you now." Is that so? Yun Zhongtian laughed coldly. What do you think? We have known each other for so many years, would this old man do something that I am not confident in? I'm not afraid to tell you that even if a heavenly god descends today, he won't be able to save you because this old man has a sovereign divine weapon. As the old ancestor of the He family's voice fell, there was a loud clanging sound as a blood-red dagger appeared. Divine power surged and shattered in all directions. Blood Dragon Dagger. Qin Feiyang's pupils shrank. You have seen it before. Yun Zhongtian said inwardly. That's right. This is the Blood Dragon Prince's sovereign divine weapon. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. No wonder you are so confident. Yun Zhongtian sneered inwardly. Qin Feiyang said inwardly, so, cooperating with me is the best choice for your Yun family. Otherwise, no matter what you do, the He family will not let you off. That's right. Yun Zhongtian nodded. Fortunately, he made a wise decision, otherwise the fate of the Yun family would be worrying. How is it? Are you surprised? Are you surprised? The old ancestor of the He family and He Qinggang laughed again, their eyes full of ridicule. After the transmission ended, they were thinking about whether they should take the opportunity to get rid of Yun Guanghui here. However, they did not have much confidence. Because they had expected that Yun Zhongtian would not trust them and might hide in Yun Guanghui's spatial divine item. If it was only Yun Guanghui alone, with their strength, they would naturally be able to easily deal with him. But if Yun Zhongtian was also there, then the strength of the two sides would be evenly matched. No one could kill the other. After some discussion, they thought of the dragons. Although these people were not easy to get along with, they could still give it a try. So, with the mentality of trying, they ran to the dragons. What they had not expected was that upon hearing their pleas, the dragon clan had only given them a moment's thought before lending them the sovereign divine weapon. Although they had only lent them one, it was more than enough to crush Yun Zhongtian and Yun Guanghui. 2 chapters today. Chapter 3505. How despicable. Yun Zhongtian's face was gloomy. But in fact, he was laughing in his heart. So what if you have the dragons helping you? My Yun family also has Qin Feiyang as a backer. Although Qin Feiyang was not as good as the dragons now, one day in the future, it was not certain who would be stronger and who would be weaker. Don't talk about the future, just talk about the present. Right now, Qin Feiyang is stronger than your He family. With a sovereign weapon, you want to defy the heavens? Is that possible? Despicable. I didn't expect that an old antique like you would say such childish words. Those who don't know would think that you are a 3-year-old child. The winner is the king and the loser is the bandit, don't you understand this logic? Kneel down. I will leave you with an intact corpse. The old ancestor of the He family looked at Qin Feiyang and Yun Zhongtian arrogantly, his eyes full of contempt, completely like a villain who had succeeded. The one who needs to kneel down is you. Qin Feiyang opened his mouth and laughed. The dignified temple lord was like this? It was really disappointing. An overlord like this, even if he was not highly respected, at least had the demeanor of a big shot. The one standing in front of him now was just a clown. Hearing this, He Qinggang immediately looked at Qin Feiyang and sneered, Yun Guanghui, are you stupid? In the face of a sovereign weapon, you still dare to be arrogant? You are the stupid one. Really? I'm not joking. Qin Feiyang laughed. You are courting death. He Qinggang's eyes turned cold as he looked at the blood dragon blade and shouted, kill him. However, not only did the blood dragon blade not make a move, but he asked, are you ordering me? He Qinggang's body stiffened, and he hurriedly crawled up with a flattering smile on his face, and said respectfully, no, no, how would I dare to order you? I am begging you to help us kill them. That's more like it. The blood dragon blade smiled coldly. Qin Feiyang laughed and said, and here I was thinking how awesome you were. But when the sovereign armament opened its mouth, it was like a grandson. He Qinggang clenched his fists and looked at the blood dragon blade respectfully. Sir, please kill him. Clang. The blood dragon edge immediately came to life and its divine might surged out towards Qin Feiyang and Yun Zhongtian as it said in displeasure, and it's like you actually need this esteemed one to personally make a move. Without waiting for blood dragon blade to finish, Qin Feiyang smiled and said, are you trying to say that it's a waste of talent? Not bad. People like you are not even trash in this sovereign's eyes. The blood dragon blade sneered. Its sharpness could topple mountains and overturn seas, shattering 100,000 miles of the Milky Way. It was a scene of destruction. So in your eyes, I'm not even trash. Interesting, interesting. Qin Feiyang laughed loudly, and a terrifying divine might rushed out from his body. What? The blood dragon blade's expression changed. This godly aura seemed to belong to Qin Feiyang's sovereign divine weapon. Boom! In the next instant, a horsetail whisk appeared. The godly aura was vast and mighty, and it constantly collided with the blood dragon blade's godly aura in the Milky Way. It really is Qin Feiyang's sovereign divine weapon. The blood dragon blade was shocked. You. The old ancestor of the He family and He Qinggang were also dumbfounded. That's right, this is a trap that we set up with Qin Feiyang. Do you really think that victory is assured? You don't know that everything is within our calculations. Yun Zhongtian sneered. Damn it. Retreat. The blood dragon blade roared and took the two of them to the exit of the Milky Way. Never would he have thought that Qin Feiyang was controlling the Yun family from behind the scenes. If that was the case, Qin Feiyang must be in the dark. One must know. Qin Feiyang had two sovereign divine weapons and the slaughter domain was comparable to a sovereign divine weapon. With just its strength alone, it was not Qin Feiyang's opponent. Clang! But at this moment, with a loud bang, the ancient castle appeared and instantly sealed the exit of the Milky Way. At the same time, the horsetail whisk came back to life and charged towards the blood dragon blade with monstrous power. Bastard! The blood dragon blade roared and released its godly aura. The old ancestor of the He family was immediately sent deeper into the Milky Way. Ancient castle, you must seal the exit and don't let the battle ripple out, lest it startles the dragon's other sovereign divine weapons. Horsetail whisk, your task is only to stall the blood dragon blade. As for the old ancestor of the He family, He Qinggang, leave it to me and Yun Zhongtian to deal with. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly and after speaking, he and Yun Zhongtian charged towards He Qinggang and He Qinggang in the depths of the Milky Way. Roger. The two sovereign divine weapons responded. The ancient castle's godly aura surged and instantly sealed the exit of the Milky Way. Old dog Yun, aren't you despicable? Seeing Qin Feiyang and Yun Zhongtian charging towards him, the old ancestor of the He family roared hysterically, his face full of panic. They had thought that with the help of the blood dragon blade, killing Yun Zhongtian and He Qinggang would be a piece of cake. Never would they have thought that this was a trap set up by the other party. What was even more unexpected was that the Yun family had already defected to Qin Feiyang. Winner takes all. That's what you said. However, this old man would like to ask you now. Are you surprised? Are you surprised? Yun Zhongtian laughed loudly. Weren't you laughing maniacally just now? Continue. When the old ancestor of the He family heard this, his face turned gloomy. The tables had turned too quickly. A moment ago, they were still confident of victory, and in the next moment, they were like turtles in a jar, unable to react in time. Yun Zhongtian stopped laughing and looked at the old ancestor of the Yun family, saying, "The two of us have known each other for so many years, but we have never really fought. Today's opportunity is quite rare, so why don't we put aside all our worries and have a fated battle?" The old ancestor of the He family glanced at the blood dragon blade. It seemed that this was their only choice. Moreover, as long as they could kill Yun Zhongtian, then even if they died, they would at least have a scapegoat. All right. The old ancestor of the He family nodded. Using a supreme-level auxiliary technique, he brought along a monstrous power of death. Like a death god, he madly charged towards Yun Zhongtian. So he has mastered the law of death. Qin Feiyang muttered and looked at Yun Zhongtian, only to see a mighty law rushing out of Yun Zhongtian's body, exuding a terrifying power of destruction. It turned out to be the law of destruction. It seemed that the various big shots of the sky cloud realm had indeed mastered the strongest law. Boom! The two supreme masters met with a loud bang. The confrontation of power, the collision of flesh and law, destroyed everything in all directions. Gates of hell. Dusk of the gods. The old ancestor of the He family roared. The fifth profound meaning and the supreme profound meaning were activated at the same time. Like the death god of hell descending, the galaxy shook, and the aura of death flooded the sky. Destruction behemoth. Destruction god. Yun Zhongtian's eyes turned cold. The law of destruction surged majestically as a huge beast appeared, like a desolate beast descending into the world, causing the galaxy to collapse crazily. At the same time, in the sky, there was a huge statue of a god. The statue was holding a long spear, as tall as the sky, like an ancient giant, crossing the sky. The destructive power emitted from its body was even more terrifying. This was the supreme profound meaning of the law of destruction, the destruction god. Boom! In an instant, the four profound meanings collided together. The galaxy turned into chaos, and the chaotic chi roared in all directions, as if heaven and earth had just been created. Puff! The two of them also spat out a mouthful of blood at the same time, their faces faintly pale. It was enough to show that the strength of the two was indeed not much different. Just as Qin Feiyang was engrossed in watching, he suddenly felt a sense of danger. He abruptly turned around and saw that He Qinggang had already swept behind him at an unknown time and was throwing a punch at him. The dignified patriarch of the He family also wants to launch a sneak attack. Qin Feiyang chuckled. He teleported and retreated like a bolt of lightning. Your reaction is quite fast. He Qinggang snorted coldly. In an instant, he had activated 6 laws. There was the law of sword, law of light, law of earth, law of metal. However, there was no supreme profound meaning. With the appearance of the 6 profound meanings, the 5 profound meanings also appeared. Although they were not as powerful as the supreme profound meaning, their power was still shocking enough. The grudge between the Yun family and the He family will be completely settled today. Kill! He Qinggang roared, and the 6 profound meanings, which carried a world-shaking power, shot toward Qin Feiyang from all directions. Do you still think that I am Yun Guanghui? Qin Feiyang was stunned. It seemed that this person was really stupid. Indeed. He Qinggang did not suspect his identity. He only thought that the Yun family was the same as the He family, borrowing a sovereign divine weapon from Qin Feiyang. Great Circle Sovereign Realm, 6 profound. If it was in the past, Qin Feiyang would not dare to face such strength head-on. But now, he had comprehended the supreme profound meaning of the law of karma and inherited the supreme profound meaning of the law of destruction. A perfection sovereign like He Qinggang did not put him in his eyes at all. Shua. He did not fight head-on. With a flash, he dodged the 6 profound meanings. Why are you dodging? He Qinggang roared. Qin Feiyang smiled. If I don't dodge, you will be killed instantly. Killed instantly? When He Qinggang heard this, he raised his head and laughed. Do you think I don't know your strength? Do you think you can kill me instantly? You must be joking. Believe me. I have always kept a low profile, so you might not know about my methods. Qin Feiyang chuckled. Stop pretending. Don't dodge if you have the guts. We have fought for so many years, but I don't think we have ever fought head-on. Let's go all out today and see who is stronger. He Qinggang laughed sinisterly. The 6 profound meanings surged around him as he punched towards Qin Feiyang. His aura was quite terrifying. Is that so? Then I will grant you your wish. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. The law of karma appeared, and 10 golden lotuses appeared in the void in front of him. What? He Qinggang had already arrived in front of Qin Feiyang. When he saw the 10 golden lotuses, his expression changed drastically. It was actually the law of karma, and it even had the supreme profound meaning. What kind of joke was this? When did Yun Guanghui comprehend the law of karma? There was no news of such a big matter at all. While He Qinggang was still in shock, 10 golden lotuses shot towards him. Each of them was as dazzling as the sun. He Qinggang immediately let out a blood-curdling scream as he was sent flying like a meteor. In the blink of an eye, his body was covered in blood. Qin Feiyang used the spacetime step and caught up with He Qinggang at lightning speed. He grabbed He Qinggang's universe ring and forcefully removed it from his finger. This was because He Qinggang had kept the key to the Divine Weapon Pavilion and Yun Zhongtian's identity token in his universe ring. Chapter 3506. How is this possible? The old ancestor of the He clan looked at the scene in disbelief. Yun Guanghui had mastered the supreme karma law. It was like the Yun clan suddenly having a sovereign divine weapon. It was hard for them to accept. Just as the old ancestor of the He clan was distracted, Yun Zhongtian seized the opportunity and the destruction law surged, instantly drowning the old ancestor of the He clan. Ah, a painful scream was heard. In an instant, the old ancestor of the He clan was covered in injuries. However, he was an overlord after all. Whether it was his reaction or strength, he could not be underestimated. In the nick of time, a set of battle armor appeared on his body. This was a supreme being level heaven-defying armor. In the end, he managed to preserve his old life, but his injuries couldn't be ignored. After Qin Feiyang found the token and key, he crushed the universe ring and looked at He Qinggang opposite him. When did you comprehend the karma law? He Qinggang asked in a low voice. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and looked at He Qinggang helplessly. I'm really not. Are you really stupid or are you pretending to be stupid? You still haven't realized that I'm not Yun Guanghui. What? You're not Yun Guanghui? He Qinggang was stunned. The old ancestor of the He clan also looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. Qin Feiyang's face was filled with a bitter smile. These people's reactions were just too slow. After putting away the token and key, he took out a face-restoring pill and threw it into his mouth. Immediately, under the shocked gazes of the He clan's old ancestor, his true appearance was restored. "You are Qin Feiyang." The two of them roared. "That's me. It seems that my acting skills are not bad. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to fool you for so long." Qin Feiyang laughed. "Damn it." Their faces were extremely gloomy. How could it be this fierce person? They would rather face the dragons than this person. Because everything that this person had done over the years was right in front of them. Conquering the Itinerant Cultivator Alliance and the Demon Hall, destroying the Blood Hall, which one of them was not shocking? Most importantly, he was still so young. Most people at this age would still act spoiled in front of their parents, but this child had already become an existence whose name shook the entire Sky Cloud realm. Even those of the older generation felt ashamed of their inferiority. This was especially true for his shrewdness and killing intent. It was really frightening. When they saw Qin Feiyang, it was as if they had seen the arrival of the Grim Reaper. They couldn't help but feel a sense of terror that couldn't be dissipated. No. During the last exchange, didn't someone say that Qin Feiyang had only comprehended the fifth profundity of the law of karma not long ago? How did he comprehend the ultimate profound meaning so quickly? His innate talent was too terrifying. Could it be that he really was the chosen one? Run! The old ancestor of the He clan came back to his senses and roared decisively. Where can you run to? Yun Zhongtian laughed coldly as he unleashed all of his profound laws. Like a demon god, he charged towards the He family's old ancestor. He Qinggang also turned around and fled. He activated his supreme tier support godly art to the extreme. Qin Feiyang couldn't help laughing. The exit of the Star River had already been sealed off by the ancient castle, so where could he escape to? Unless he had the law of spacetime. But the current situation wouldn't give him the chance to activate the law of spacetime or use a spacetime teleportation divine artifact to escape. Swoosh! Qin Feiyang used the spacetime step and chased after him at lightning speed. He Qinggang panicked as he frantically fled into the depths of the Star River. His speed was still faster than Qin Feiyang's. Because Qin Feiyang's cultivation was still one stage lower than his. And the ultimate profound meaning of the law of karma and the law of destruction didn't have the effect of increasing his speed. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. With a wave of his hand, Yun Guanghui and the white-eyed wolf appeared. He pointed at He Qinggang and said, "I'll leave him to you. Leave him alive. I have a use for him." "No problem." The man and the wolf smiled coldly. Yun Guanghui activated his supreme tier support godly art. The white-eyed wolf activated the instant time and disappeared into the depths of the Star River. Qin Feiyang decisively turned around and activated the ultimate profound meaning of the law of karma, charging towards the He family's old ancestor. The He family's old ancestor was the most important. Because the key to opening the divine weapon pavilion was with him. If he wanted to obtain the support of the sovereign divine weapon, he had to get the key. And now, the He family's old ancestor was entangled by Yun Zhongtian. It was impossible for him to escape. "Qin Feiyang, let's talk." Seeing Qin Feiyang charging over, the He family's old ancestor immediately shouted in panic. In a one-on-one battle, his cultivation was higher than Qin Feiyang's and he had complete confidence that he could crush Qin Feiyang. But now, the one fighting him head-on wasn't Qin Feiyang, but Yun Zhongtian. Qin Feiyang was only assisting Yun Zhongtian from the side. Yun Zhongtian's strength wasn't any weaker than his and with Qin Feiyang's assistance, he would fall sooner or later. Although Qin Feiyang's cultivation wasn't as high as his, the ultimate profound meaning of the law of karma was enough to pose a threat to him. "There doesn't seem to be anything to discuss between us." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. With a wave of his hand, 10 golden lotuses shattered the sky and whizzed over, their auras firmly locked onto the He family's old ancestor. We can discuss. My He family can also cooperate with you to fight against that mysterious force. The He family's old ancestor roared. What about He Tian's death? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. The He family's old ancestor said without hesitation, he's just a good-for-nothing junior. It doesn't matter. You're really heartless. But what I want is not cooperation, but submission. If you submit to me, I can consider letting you go. Qin Feiyang shook his head. All right. I submit. The He family's old ancestor nodded without hesitation. In fact, he was most afraid of the slaughter zone. Because the power of the slaughter zone was well known. Once Qin Feiyang activated the slaughter zone, even a heavenly god wouldn't be able to save him. In short, no matter what, he had to escape this calamity first. With a thought, Qin Feiyang stopped the 10 golden lotuses and hovered above the He family's old ancestor. He said with a smile, then stop resisting and enter the Sea of Qi. What? Enter the Sea of Qi. The He family's old ancestor's face stiffened. If Qin Feiyang was just bluffing him now, then when he destroyed his Sea of Qi, wouldn't he be a fish on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered by these two? At that time, he wouldn't even have the right to self-destruct. Looks like you're not sincere about submitting. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly as the 10 golden lotuses descended. At the same time, Yun Zhongtian also activated the Destruction Law's supreme profundity, bringing with him the power to destroy the world as he charged over. Boom! Facing 2 supreme profundities, the He family's old ancestor didn't dare to be careless. The 6 supreme profundities that he had mastered appeared one after another. Among them, the supreme profundity of the Death Law went against Yun Zhongtian's Destruction Law. The other 5 supreme profundities went against Qin Feiyang's Cause and Effect Law. Because he had to face a strong enemy like Yun Zhongtian head-on. Otherwise, just Yun Zhongtian's Destruction Law was enough to kill him in a matter of minutes. However, although the He family's old ancestor blocked Yun Zhongtian's Destruction Law, he couldn't block Qin Feiyang's Cause and Effect Law. Because a mere 5th profundity was no match for the supreme profundity of the Cause and Effect Law. The 5 supreme profundities were annihilated on the spot. The 10 golden lotuses seemed to split the heavens and earth as they blasted towards the He family's old ancestor. Crack! After a long battle, the He family's old ancestor's battle armor finally reached its limit and shattered with a loud crack. Following that, the 10 golden lotuses exploded with a destructive power that drowned the He family's old ancestor. Even if his cultivation was higher than Qin Feiyang by a small realm, it was still difficult for him to block the power of the 10 golden lotuses. His body was torn to pieces as his blood dyed the void red. It was also at this moment. Yun Zhongtian took a step forward and instantly landed in front of the He family's old ancestor, grabbing the universe ring on his hand. At the same time, he raised his other hand and an invisible force rolled out, blasting towards the He family's old ancestor's head. Ah! With a shrill scream, the He family's old ancestor's head exploded like a watermelon. A ray of light rushed out from the blood mist, his face filled with horror as he fled into the depths of the galaxy without looking back. This was the He family's old ancestor's soul. Yun Zhongtian waved his hand and threw the universe ring to Qin Feiyang. Then, using the supreme stage heaven-defying auxiliary divine art, he stepped in front of the He family's old ancestor's soul and sneered, "Where do you think you're going? Don't kill me. Old man Yun. No no no, big brother Yun. Our 2 families have been partners for many years and our ancestors are as close as brothers. Even if you don't give me face, can you give me a way out?" The He family's old ancestor's soul begged again and again. If it was before, his physical body had not been shattered and he still had the strength to fight. But now, he was only left with his soul. Not to mention Yun Zhongtian, even Qin Feiyang would be able to destroy him with a wave of his hand. Because Qin Feiyang had grasped the most profound meaning of the supreme law. As close as brothers? Yun Zhongtian's face showed a trace of mockery as he sneered, in the beginning, the ancestors of our two families were indeed as close as brothers. But when the divine temple stabilized, driven by ambition and desire, they fell out with each other. It was from that time that our two families were like fire and water. Now, you still have the nerve to tell me this? But it is undeniable that the relationship between our two families was indeed very good. If you let me go, I will give you the sovereign divine weapon and the control of the divine temple with both hands. I will also promise that from today onwards, my He family will become a subsidiary of your Yun family. The He family's old ancestor begged. Your universe ring is already in the hands of Qin Feiyang. Do I still need you to give away the control of the divine temple? We'll talk about it later. Didn't you say before that my Yun family will become a subsidiary of your He family? Yun Zhongtian looked at him playfully. I was just joking. Did you take it seriously? Your Yun family is the #1 family in the southern continent. All these years, it was actually your Yun family who gave in to our He family. Big brother Yun, please give me a chance. I will definitely assist you well in managing the divine temple and the southern continent. The He family's old ancestor did not hesitate to put down his pride and dignity to kneel before Yun Zhongtian like a dog, wagging his tail and begging for mercy. Where was the demeanor of the #1 family in the southern continent? If any outsider were to see this, they would definitely be dumbfounded. My apologies, this old man does not need your assistance. We'll talk about it later. If it were you now, would you let this old man go? Yun Zhongtian laughed coldly, his divine power roaring out as he struck a palm towards the He family's old ancestor's soul. Chapter 3507. The He clan's old ancestor quivered. He quickly turned around and ran in front of Qin Feiyang. He hugged Qin Feiyang's thigh and begged, Brother Qin, it's my fault. I shouldn't have colluded with those people. You're a great person who doesn't remember the wrongs of a lowly person. Qin Feiyang kicked him away and said indifferently, at that time, before He Tian self-destructed, I had already given your He clan a chance, but you didn't know how to cherish it. Yes, yes, yes. It's all my fault. I'm a bastard who doesn't know what's good for him. I beg you, give me another chance. I promise to serve you wholeheartedly. Look, I have the laws of death, and I have the highest profound meaning. I will definitely be able to help you. Just treat me like a dog. Can you pity me? Old ancestor of the He clan desperately crawled in front of Qin Feiyang and begged again and again. Can you have some backbone? You are the temple master of the temple after all. Qin Feiyang was helpless. When old ancestor of the He clan heard this, he really had the urge to curse. Could backbone be eaten? At this time, Yun Zhongtian walked over with a murderous aura, looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Brother Qin, you must hand this person over to this old man, because to this old man, there is nothing more satisfying than killing him. Don't, old ancestor of the He clan trembled, looked at Qin Feiyang, and cried out, Brother Qin, don't, I beg you, give me a way out, I am willing to hand over everything of the He clan to you. Qin Feiyang remained silent. Yun Zhongtian's eyes were filled with killing intent, but he did not act rashly. Because he knew that if not for Qin Feiyang, he would not have been able to do this. And now, the one kneeling and begging for mercy was definitely not the He clan's old ancestor, but him. Shua. At this time, Yun Guanghui and the white-eyed wolf broke through the air. He Qinggang was grabbed by Yun Guanghui, like a dead dog, limp and powerless in the air. Done. The white-eyed wolf bared its fangs. Yun Guanghui casually tossed He Qinggang beside the He clan's old ancestor. We've also settled it. Qin Feiyang chuckled. The white-eyed wolf glanced at the old ancestor of the He clan and said disdainfully, let's talk about you. In any case, you're a supreme expert. Why are you so weak? I'm no match for you. The old ancestor of the He clan smiled apologetically. How shameless. The white-eyed wolf smiled disdainfully. In the meantime, when He Qinggang saw that the old ancestor had fallen to such a state, the despair in his eyes intensified. Senior Yun, please come with me. Qin Feiyang swept his gaze over the two of them and his eyes flashed as he looked at Yun Zhongtian and asked with a smile. Yun Zhongtian looked suspiciously at Qin Feiyang. There's something I want to discuss with you. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and turned to walk off to the side. Yun Zhongtian was still a little puzzled as he quickly followed after him. Qin Feiyang stopped in his tracks and turned his head to look at Yun Zhongtian as he transmitted his voice to him. Senior, a straightforward person does not resort to insinuations. I do not want to kill them now. Why? Yun Zhongtian could not help but frown. Because they are still useful. Qin Feiyang thought to himself. What use? Yun Zhongtian asked suspiciously. He Qinggang definitely does not have much value. But the old ancestor of the He clan, if used properly, can still be of great value. Because now, he has already gained the trust of the dragons. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Yun Zhongtian was slightly taken aback and pondered for a moment before he asked, what you mean is, to let him be our spy? Senior is indeed a senior, to be able to see through it with just a hint. That's right. The dragons are not that easy to deal with. If we can plant a spy beside them, to us, it will definitely be of critical use. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with a bright light. But, will this one with the surname He truly submit to us? Moreover, that blood dragon blade has been watching the entire time. When the time comes, won't it tell the princess and prince of the dragons? Yun Zhongtian asked. I have a way to control the old ancestor of the He clan. He will not dare to act rashly. As for the blood dragon blade, I have a bold plan. Qin Feiyang said. What plan? Yun Zhongtian was bewildered. Subdue it and use it for us. Qin Feiyang paused after every word, like a sudden clap of thunder, crashing into Yun Zhongtian's mind. He actually wanted to subdue the sovereign divine weapon of the dragons. That was just a little too much. How could a sovereign divine weapon be so easily subdued? Besides, even if the sovereign divine weapon recognized its master with a drop of blood, it would not be able to bind it. What if it said it would submit, but there was something fishy in its heart? Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice with a laugh, I know your concerns. I have a way to control the sovereign divine weapon as well, just like the horsetail whisk. Isn't it obeying my every command now? Hearing that, Yun Zhongtian looked at Qin Feiyang in bewilderment. In a moment, you will see how I control it. But before that, I want you to let the old ancestor of the He clan go first. Of course. Old Pei has told this junior about the grudge between your two clans. If you insist on killing him, this junior will not stop you. You also do not have to consider the problem of destroying the relationship between us. This junior is not that kind of person. In any case, this junior respects your choice. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. When Yun Zhongtian heard those words, his heart was a little touched. Because with Qin Feiyang's current level of power, he did not need to seek his consent to keep the old ancestor of the He clan alive. And even if Qin Feiyang did so, he would not dare to have any complaints. But, Qin Feiyang did not use such a forceful method but chose to seek his consent first. That showed that Qin Feiyang was showing him a respectful attitude. To be respected by others, was naturally a very happy thing. Similarly, if others respected you, you should respect them as well. That was the most basic quality of being a person. Yun Zhongtian looked at the old ancestor of the He clan and muttered to himself for a while before he transmitted his voice, all right. As long as it is beneficial to your plan, this little bit of personal grudge can be set aside for now. Thank you. Qin Feiyang smiled gratefully. No matter what, the boldness, character, and conduct that Yun Zhongtian had displayed so far was worthy of respect and trust. He could even be described as a person of virtue and prestige. The two of them returned to the side of the white-eyed wolf and Yun Guanghui. The white-eyed wolf looked at the two of them suspiciously and asked, "What sort of sinister plot are you two discussing? Can you not speak so crudely?" Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him and looked at the old ancestor of the He clan and He Qinggang before he said with a smile, "I have discussed this with Elder Yun and he can give you a way out." Really? Hearing that, the two of them were overjoyed. Qin Feiyang then said, "But you two are smart people and you should know that I have conditions." I know. Just give us your orders." The old ancestor of the He clan nodded his head repeatedly. He did not care about anything else first, as long as he could save his own life first. "You two swear. From now on, you will serve me and never betray me," Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Just like that. The two of them were stunned and quickly raised their hands to swear. Wait a moment. What I want is not this kind of oath that is no different from a fart. Let me teach you. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and told the two of them the method of making the blood oath. Thus, the two of them followed Qin Feiyang's method and swore the blood oath one after another. What's different about this oath? Yun Zhongtian and Yun Guanghui looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. It's different. You should see the effect of breaking the oath soon. Qin Feiyang smiled secretly and glanced at the old ancestor of the He clan and He Qinggang. Suddenly, a ray of heavenly punishment fell from the sky and headed straight for He Qinggang. Retreat! Qin Feiyang shouted. The group of people quickly retreated, including the old ancestor of the He clan, leaving behind a panicked and confused He Qinggang. Why would there be heavenly punishment? With a scream, He Qinggang was destroyed on the spot. This? Yun Zhongtian and Yun Guanghui were dumbfounded. Especially the old ancestor of the He clan, his eyes almost popped out. Could this have something to do with the oath from before? Qin Feiyang retracted his gaze and turned to look at the old ancestor of the He clan. He smiled, "You are very lucky, you know. Although you have submitted on the surface, at least for the time being, you did not have the intention to betray me. Otherwise, the one being punished by the heavens would not only be He Qinggang, but you too. It really has something to do with the oath." The old ancestor of the He clan's eyes trembled. That's right. This oath is called a blood oath. A blood oath is different from an ordinary oath. Because a blood oath will come true. Do you know why the horsetail whisk is so loyal to me? It is because of the binding of the blood oath. Qin Feiyang smiled. I see. The old ancestor of the He clan mumbled. All the thoughts in his heart dissipated in an instant, leaving only fear and respect. If even a sovereign divine weapon could be bound, then there was no need to mention him. At the same time, Yun Zhongtian and Yun Guanghui looked at each other, and a sense of respect rose in their hearts. Two sovereign divine weapons, slaughter domain, the supreme mystery of the law of karma, and all kinds of secret techniques to control others. Fortunately, they did not become enemies with this man. Otherwise, with this man's means, it would be child's play if he wanted to deal with the Yun clan. They still didn't know how powerful the dragon race was, but they deeply understood and experienced how terrifying Qin Feiyang was. This was an existence that they absolutely couldn't become enemies with. They finally understood why the Rogue Cultivator Alliance and the Demon Palace had helped Qin Feiyang so much in the past. On one hand, it was admiration. On the other hand, it was respect. Wait. Suddenly, Yun Zhongtian frowned, looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, I heard that you have fallen out with the Demon Palace and the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. Qin Feiyang glanced at the blood dragon blade who was still fighting with the horsetail whisk and said in a low voice, I will tell you about this later. White-eyed wolf, accompany Senior Yun to the divine palace immediately and get the sovereign divine weapon. I will need its help later. Okay. The white-eyed wolf nodded. Wait. We haven't gotten the list of spies yet, right? Yun Guanghui suddenly said. Qin Feiyang looked at Yun Guanghui and handed the token and key to Yun Zhongtian. He looked at the man and wolf and said, "You two go first." Okay. Yun Zhongtian nodded and gave the white-eyed wolf a set of coordinates. The white-eyed wolf immediately opened a space-time passage and the man and wolf rushed in like lightning. Qin Feiyang looked at Yun Guanghui and pointed at the He clan's old ancestor with a smile, he should know. Yun Guanghui heard this and immediately looked at the He clan's old ancestor. What spy? The He clan's old ancestor was suspicious. Why are you acting dumb? It's the spy your He clan arranged in our Yun clan. Yun Guanghui said angrily. Chapter 3508. So that's the case. The old ancestor of the He clan nodded and said, I know a little. A little? Yun Guanghui frowned. Yes. I only know some important people. For example, the commander of the guards of the Yun clan. He is the spy of the He clan. The old ancestor of the He clan said. What? The commander of the guards is actually the spy of the He clan? Yun Guanghui was shocked. That's right. We bribed him with a heaven-defying artifact. I was the one who asked He Qinggang to handle this matter personally. The old ancestor of the He clan nodded. Scoundrel. What a white-eyed wolf. Yun Guanghui clenched his fists. Qin Feiyang looked at Yun Guanghui and asked, Do you trust the commander of the guards? In a clan like ours, there isn't much trust. However, I have a clear conscience. In the early years, not only did I give him a lot of resources, but I also let him enter the time array to cultivate in seclusion. But I didn't expect him to betray the Yun clan. After knowing this, even the gentle Yun Guanghui couldn't help but grit his teeth. His face was as dark as water. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. This was the way of the world. Even if you were sincere to others, you might not be able to exchange it for their sincerity. Therefore, everyone who was loyal to him was a precious treasure. He had to cherish them. Qin Feiyang looked at the old ancestor of the He clan and asked, How many people like the commander of the guards are there? 11. They all hold important positions in the Yun clan. I can give you a list when the time comes. As for the other small fries, I'm not sure. Because the small fries are usually handled by He Qinggang and He Qingxiang. The old ancestor of the He clan said. He Qingxiang. Qin Feiyang was suspicious. He Qinggang and He Qingxiang are brothers. The former is the eldest and the latter is the second. The current affairs of the He clan are handled by the two of them. Yun Guanghui explained. In that case, we have to find He Qingxiang. Qin Feiyang frowned. That's easy. As long as I give the order, he will obediently make a list and hand it to me. When the He clan's old ancestor saw that the opportunity to perform a meritorious deed had arrived, he immediately opened his mouth and laughed. All right. I'll leave this matter to you. Qin Feiyang nodded. Then I'll go back now. The old ancestor of He clan asked. If we go back now, don't let the dragons discover us. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment before summoning Snowflake. Accompany him back to the He family. If he dares to play any tricks, kill him immediately. Snowflake was more than enough to deal with an old ancestor of the He clan who only had his divine soul left. How would I dare to play any tricks now? The old ancestor of the He clan smiled bitterly. That's not necessarily true. Yun Guanghui snorted and looked at Qin Feiyang. Do you want me to go with him? There's no need for that. Too many people might cause problems. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and looked at Snowflake. I'll leave it to you. No problem. Snowflake grinned. Because the old ancestor of He clan's body had been destroyed, he couldn't revive the divine message stone, so he had to go back in person. After the old ancestor of He clan and Snowflake left, Qin Feiyang turned to look at the blood dragon blade. The blood dragon blade had long wanted to escape. However, facing the blockade of the ancient castle and the entanglement of the horsetail whisk, it was almost impossible to escape from the Star River. Stop. Qin Feiyang spoke. His voice wasn't loud, but it was clearly transmitted to the minds of the weapon spirits of the horsetail whisk and the blood dragon blade. The two divine weapons stopped fighting at the same time and floated in the void. Qin Feiyang brought Yun Guanghui to the horsetail whisk and smiled at the blood dragon blade. Do you still need to struggle? It's not that easy for you to destroy me with these two divine weapons. The weapon spirit of the blood dragon blade grinned. I admit that. The ancient castle needs to seal the Star River, so I can't fight head-on. But if you think you have the right to be arrogant in front of me, you're gravely mistaken. Qin Feiyang's eyes turned cold, and the slaughter domain opened instantly. The blood dragon blade's heart trembled. Qin Feiyang said lightly, although I like to be reasonable, if I meet a stubborn guy, I don't mind using tough means. In fact, Qin Feiyang didn't have enough blood to feed the slaughter domain. Because the blood sea of the western region was almost empty when he fought with the first prince of the dragons. However, the blood dragon blade didn't know this. Even if he didn't stack the power of the slaughter domain, as long as the slaughter domain was opened, it could still deter the blood dragon blade. The blood dragon blade couldn't help but panic when he heard this. He also felt a great pressure and said in a low voice, "What do you want?" "It's very simple. Submit to me." Qin Feiyang smiled. "In your dreams." The blood dragon blade shouted angrily. For others, wanting a dominator divine weapon to submit to them is no different from a dream, but do you think I can be the same? I believe you've heard of the two dominator divine weapons, the ice dragon's sacred sword and the celestial dragon god's sword. They fell in my hands. If you want to follow in their footsteps, I don't mind helping you. Qin Feiyang laughed. When the blood dragon blade heard this, he couldn't help but feel his scalp go numb. Actually, you should have some understanding of me after these few confrontations. To be honest, the prince and princess of the dragons are no match for me even if they join forces. It can even be said that if it weren't for your dominator divine weapons protecting them, who knows how many times they would have died. There's a good saying, a fine bird chooses a tree to nest in. Even if you want to assist, shouldn't you assist someone who is worthy of your assistance? Not to mention anything else, at least I won't drag you down. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Saying such words only shows that you're a frog at the bottom of a well, because you don't understand the strength of the dragons. Blood dragon blade snorted. Wrong. I've never doubted the strength of the dragons, and I'm not arrogant enough to look down on the existence of the dragons. But I still believe that man can conquer nature. Back then in the ancient world, when I faced the dragon clan, I was the same as I am now. I was like an ant, constantly on the run. But what happened in the end? Didn't the dragons of the ancient realm also die in my hands? If it wasn't for the ice dragon at the critical moment, his wife and child would already be in the ancient realm. Again. My current cultivation is indeed inferior to the dragons. But you can ask around. How long have I been in the sky cloud realm? But now, I've stepped into the perfect dominator realm, and I've mastered the two supreme laws. Do you think that I have no hope of catching up with the dragons or even surpassing them? Qin Feiyang's tone was very calm, but Yun Guanghui and the three divine weapons of the sovereigns could feel a firm belief. It was only a matter of time before he caught up with the dragons and surpassed the dragons. But relatively speaking, Yun Guanghui was even more shocked. He had always thought that the supreme law Qin Feiyang mastered was the karma law, and that he had only comprehended the fifth profound. This was also known to the world. But previously, when Qin Feiyang suddenly revealed the highest profundity of the karma law, it had already given him a fright. But he didn't expect that. Now, he actually said that he had mastered the supreme profundities of 2 supreme laws. This was too terrifying. Was he still human? Let's not talk about me first. Let's talk about the white-eyed wolf. Now that you've mastered the 4 supreme laws, isn't that shocking enough? Qin Feiyang looked at Blood Dragon Blade and smiled. What? The ultimate profundity of the 4 supreme laws? Yun Guanghui's mind buzzed. What kind of monsters were these? Each one was more abnormal than the other. Blood Dragon Blade was silent. Actually, it's not difficult to choose. The dragons are very strong, but do they have a world in their hands? No, but I, Qin Feiyang, do. The dragons have many sovereign divine weapons, but do they have the ability to create a sovereign divine weapon in the shortest time possible? They don't, but I do. Whether it's a human or a sovereign divine weapon, we can't just look at the present. We have to look at the long term and see who has the real potential and is worthy of following. Although I, Qin Feiyang, am not a good person, I have always had a clear conscience about everything around me. In the eyes of the dragons, whether it's a sovereign divine weapon or a heaven-defying divine weapon, it's just a tool that can be used. But in my eyes, you are all my friends. I respect you and admire you. Maybe you won't believe it now. After all, we haven't had much contact, but you can try to understand me first. If you find out in the end that I'm not such a person, I won't stop you if you want to leave. Qin Feiyang said. Swish. It was also at this moment. A space-time transmission channel appeared, and White-Eyed Wolf and Yun Zhongtian returned. Yun Zhongtian was in high spirits, his spirits hale and hearty as he flew to stand before Qin Feiyang. With a wave of his hand, a black broadsword appeared, about 2 meters long and 4 fingers wide. The hilt of the sword was shaped like a skeleton, exuding an aura of death. This is your sovereign divine weapon? Qin Feiyang looked at the black broadsword and asked. That's right. This sword is called the Sword of the Grim Reaper. Yun Zhongtian nodded. Qin Feiyang looked at the Sword of the Grim Reaper and said with a smile, this is the first time we meet. I look forward to meeting you in the future. You're welcome. The spirit of the Sword of the Grim Reaper responded. Its voice was like an undead from hell, revealing a ruthless indifference. Qin Feiyang turned his head to look at the Blood Dragon Blade and said with a smile, now that we have 3 sovereign divine weapons and the slaughter domain, you have no chance. Even if the ancient castle doesn't seal off the Star River, we can still destroy you before your companions arrive. The Blood Dragon Blade trembled slightly, and a panicked emotion spread out. Don't hesitate anymore. Try to get to know me. I guarantee that you will never regret your decision today. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and invited him with a kind expression. The Blood Dragon Blade pondered for a moment, and finally sighed helplessly and said, do I have a choice? No. Qin Feiyang smiled. All right. However, don't forget your promise. If I want to leave in the future, you can't stop me. The Blood Dragon Blade said in a deep voice. If I really do anything to let you down, you don't have to say anything. I will take the initiative to send you away. Qin Feiyang said. Then it's a promise. After the Blood Dragon Blade finished speaking, he quickly withdrew his aura. Chapter 3509. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang, Yun Guanghui, and Yun Zhongtian all had a smile on their faces. The white-eyed wolf's eyes flashed as he looked at Qin Feiyang and said, who knows if this is a delaying tactic? What do you mean? The Blood Dragon Blade immediately said angrily. Don't be agitated. A sovereign divine weapon like you is always in danger. Without certain restrictions, who would really dare to keep you by their side? So, you have to make a blood oath. The white-eyed wolf sneered. Blood oath, the blood dragon blade fell silent. Previously, when He Qinggang and the ancestor of the He family made a blood oath, it also noticed. This was a poisonous oath that would come true. Once it made a blood oath, wouldn't it be completely tied to Qin Feiyang and the others? In the future, even if it left, it would have to depend on Qin Feiyang. Frankly speaking, it didn't trust Qin Feiyang either. His words sounded nice now, and he could leave when he wanted to. But what if he was lying to it? You don't dare. You're guilty. I think you're fooling us. The white-eyed wolf sneered. Who says I don't dare? But can you trust me? When I make a blood oath, even if you go back on your words, what can I do? I can only be at your mercy. The blood dragon blade roared. We can understand your feelings. But please understand us. A blood oath is definitely necessary. Otherwise, I wouldn't dare to keep you by my side. In short, please believe me. I've always been a man of my words. If you don't believe me, you can ask the horsetail whisk. Have I ever forced it to do anything over the years? Qin Feiyang looked at the blood dragon blade and smiled. The blood dragon blade fell silent again. It really didn't dare to touch the blood oath. As you said before, you have no choice now. You can only choose to believe Qin Feiyang. To be honest, I've always been unhappy with Qin Feiyang. However, I can't deny that he's indeed a pretty good young man. At the very least, I've never seen anyone who's more affectionate than him. Horsetail Whisk said suddenly. Hearing this, Blood Dragon Blade struggled for a moment and sighed, "All right, I'll make a blood oath." After the blood oath was completed, the ancient castle removed the seal on the Star River. He chuckled and said, "Isn't this a happy ending?" Humph. Blood Dragon Blade snorted and said to Qin Feiyang, "I choose to believe you, so please don't let me down. The future is long. You will see." Qin Feiyang smiled. Whoosh! At this moment, another time and space teleportation tunnel appeared. Snowflake brought the old ancestor of the He family back. Yun Guanghui looked at Snow and asked, "How is it?" Snowflake said, "I've got the list. It's in his hands." Yun Guanghui immediately ran in front of Patriarch He and extended his hand. "Give it to me." Patriarch He handed Yun Guanghui a book that looked like an account book. Yun Guanghui immediately opened it. Every page was filled with densely packed names. Yun Guanghui flipped through the pages one by one. The more he read, the gloomier his face became. Yun Zhongtian also walked over and looked down. His face quickly turned gloomy. Just the first 3 pages had no less than 50 people. And several of them were now holding important positions in the Yun family. Qin Feiyang looked at the expressions of the two and sent a sound transmission. It seems that the number of spies and their positions in the Yun family have exceeded their imagination. Obviously. White-eyed Wolf bared his teeth. Patriarch He also noticed Blood Dragon Blade, who was obedient at the side. He looked at Qin Feiyang and asked in a low voice, "Has Blood Dragon Blade been subdued?" "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. Patriarch He's eyes trembled. He was really powerful. He said that he would subdue Blood Dragon Blade and he really did. In this way. Ancient Castle, Horsetail Whisk, Blood Dragon Blade, Sword of the Grim Reaper. Didn't Qin Feiyang have 4 sovereign divine weapons? 4 sovereign divine weapons. Just thinking about it made his scalp go numb. These bastards. I want to kill them all, not leaving a single one alive. Suddenly. Yun Guanghui roared, his big hand holding the list tightly, his face full of gloominess. "How many?" Qin Feiyang glanced at Yun Guanghui and asked Yun Zhongtian. "More than 300 people." Yun Zhongtian sighed. He didn't expect that the Yun family had so many spies. He originally thought that there were at most 100 people, but now the number was 3 times that. If these people were not eliminated, once the war with the He family broke out in the future, the consequences would be unimaginable. Qin Feiyang was secretly speechless. He was also shocked and asked curiously, then how many spies did the Yun family arrange in the He family? More than 70 people. Yun Zhongtian smiled bitterly. That's quite a few levels lower. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. He looked at the He family's old ancestor and gave him a thumbs up. In this aspect, you guys are quite good. No, no. The He family's old ancestor smiled embarrassedly. Then let's move out. Snowflake, White-Eyed Wolf, both of you have mastered the spacetime laws. I'll have to trouble you to follow Yun Zhongtian and Yun Guanghui to the Yun family and help them eliminate all the spies. Also, you must transfer all the Yun family members to Sea Lion Island before nightfall. As for the Yun family's resources, old Senior Yun, take as much as you can. Don't force it, lest you attract the attention of the dragons. After all, our Black Tortoise world doesn't lack resources. Qin Feiyang reminded. Understood. Yun Zhongtian nodded. Then let's move out. We'll meet at Sea Lion Island. As Qin Feiyang waved his hand, White-Eyed Wolf immediately activated the spacetime laws and left with Snowflake and Yun Zhongtian. What about us? The He family's old ancestor asked. You, Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment before looking at the He family's old ancestor and asked, what's your name? This subordinate is He Zhongtian. The He family's old ancestor replied respectfully. He Zhongtian. Yun Zhongtian. Your names can't be a coincidence, right? Qin Feiyang was stunned. It can be considered a competition between our parents. Our parents both wanted us to be successful, so they gave us this name. It means that we'll be like the sun in the sky. The He family's old ancestor smiled bitterly. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but laugh. They even had to compete for names. The competition between the two families was really intense. He then looked at He Zhongtian and Blood Dragon Blade and said, you two should return to the dragon's side. If there's any news, inform me immediately. You want us to be spies? Blood Dragon Blade was dissatisfied. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, something like that. But you don't have to risk your life. Just help me gather information. No problem, no problem. The Blood Dragon Blade didn't say anything. After all, it was a sovereign divine weapon and had the right to express its dissatisfaction. However, He Zhongtian's attitude was still submissive. Because he knew his own limits. To Qin Feiyang, this so-called overlord of a region, his value was actually not that great. Qin Feiyang said, return to the He family after dark. Why do we have to return after dark? He Zhongtian was puzzled. Because if you go back now, the prince and princess of the dragons will definitely ask about your situation. When they know that the Yun family has cooperated with me, they will definitely attack the Yun family immediately. Qin Feiyang said. I see. He Zhongtian suddenly understood and said, from what you're saying, when we return, we'll tell them everything. Yes. Other than the fact that you've turned over to the light, tell them everything truthfully. You don't have to hide He Qinggang's death. Just tell them that I killed him. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. A betrayal is a betrayal. Turning over to the light. The Blood Dragon Blade snorted. But you have indeed turned over to the light. Qin Feiyang said. Don't make yourself sound like the embodiment of justice, okay? The Blood Dragon Blade despised. Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly and looked at He Zhongtian and the Blood Dragon Blade. Since we have time now, I'll take you to the Black Tortoise world. Black Tortoise world. When He Zhongtian heard this, he immediately looked forward to it. In fact, the battle between Qin Feiyang and the others had already alarmed the people of the Divine Palace. Because the Divine Palace was near the White Phoenix mountain range. At first, when they fought in the White Phoenix mountain range and razed it to the ground, the people of the Divine Palace had already felt the movement. But when the Divine Palace sent people to check, Qin Feiyang and the others had already entered the Star River. Coupled with the ancient castle seal, they couldn't feel the battle outside. Therefore, they thought that it might be a fierce beast or someone had hurriedly fought here. Therefore, they didn't do a detailed investigation. However, now, whether it was the Yun family or the Divine Palace, there was an undercurrent surging. Because when Yun Zhongtian returned to the Yun family, he immediately contacted Yun Zhongyue and several elders in the Divine Palace and asked them to immediately take the disciples of the Yun family in the Divine Palace and secretly evacuate. For this sudden change, Yun Zhongyue and several elders were a little caught off guard. But now, Yun Zhongtian didn't have time to explain and just let them do as they were told. At the same time, the White-Eyed Wolf took Yun Guanghui and Snowflake took the other experts of the Yun family to various places to secretly execute the more than 300 spies on the list. Because these people were scattered in various major cities. To get rid of them, without the help of the White-Eyed Wolf and Snowflake, it was really not an easy task to accomplish. In short, the people of the entire southern continent were unaware of the changes in the Yun family at this moment. Time flew by and night fell. Heavenly Cloud Sea, Sea Lion Island. At this moment, the sky above Sea Lion Island was already crowded with men and women, old and young. These were the people of the Yun family. There were people of the main bloodline and also people of the branch bloodline. But without exception, at this moment, everyone's face was full of doubts. But the most puzzled was the owner of this island, the Sea Lion. Why were there so many people coming today, one after another? What the hell were Qin Feiyang and Boss Wolf doing? Because these people were basically sent by the White-Eyed Wolf and Snowflake, the Sea Lion knew that Qin Feiyang and the White-Eyed Wolf had something to do with it. But time was too tight, and the White-Eyed Wolf didn't explain to him, so he lay alone on the island depressed. When night fell completely, a space-time transmission channel appeared in the sky again. At this moment, everyone looked at the transmission channel and saw the White-Eyed Wolf, Yun Zhongtian, Yun Guanghui, Snowflake, and a large group of unfamiliar faces, coming out of the transmission channel one after another. Chapter 3, Release at 10. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.